Let's go. What's happening, guys? Be right with you. Make sure you hit that like button. Join the chat. Get yourselves comfortable. Smoke them if you got them. You're enjoying an adult beverage. Enjoy the shit out of it. What do you say? I got, what I say is that I think we have a pretty good opening jam there for a smaller podcast, for a smaller live stream. I think we're doing pretty well in the beats. I mean, the outro is one of the best. I know that you guys enjoy it. I enjoy it too. But, a little props for that at least. Give me a little props for that at least. But what's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Very much appreciate you for joining me. It is Tuesday, the 7th of July, 2026. My name's Brian. This is the Blunt Politics Podcast. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, out of your busy day to sit here and, gather up some facts, gather in some of the news, talk to some great people in the chat, whatever you're here for. I really do appreciate it. And if you could hit that like button, if you could help get us to 25,000 subscribers, that would be even better. Thank you guys so much to everybody on Facebook and YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Substack. Nothing hidden behind a paywall, no charge for the Substack or anything like that. So thank you guys so much for supporting this show. Multiple ways you can do so. Up here in the corner is a Venmo, quickest and easiest way to, get your support to the show. Thank you guys so much for everybody utilizing that. Obviously, you can sign up for a YouTube membership just underneath me somewhere. You can gift out those memberships to fantastic people in the chat as well. And then, you can head over to patreon.com/Boston Brian. Check out the 3 great tiers we have over there. Get you the discounts to the merch shop, which is at bostonbrian.com. Fantastic ways in which you can help this channel, and I can't thank you guys enough for all of your support, all of the generosity, all of the passion that you guys show. Shout out to the Patreons last night. Great to see you guys last night in the Zoom. A ton of things that we discussed. So typically you get into a little bit of the news that we're going to cover cover on the next show, you know what I mean? So something that broke last night. We didn't have a show yesterday that we'll be covering today. Sometimes we get into that on the Zoom. A lot of different reasons. We kind of, we delve into a lot of separate things. But what do you say we bring in the chat, say hi to you guys, and then we'll get into some of the things that we'll be covering today, because there's a lot on the schedule. There's a lot on the plate, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. A lot that we need to talk about, some kind of I told you so's that I don't really want to make, that I'm not happy to make, that I take no solace in saying. But like I said, before we dive into that, let's say hi to the chat. Frank, what's going on, my brother? What's happening over there? Appreciate you. What's up, Black Dragon on Twitch? Thank you to everybody on Twitch. All of the, the support that that you guys have been showing over there is fantastic. Thank you to Alyosha, and happy birthday to Alyosha, my main man over there on Twitch. Everybody in the chat, hopefully we're wishing happy birthday to Alyosha. W's in the chat to Alyosha. And thank you again for everything that you do for this channel, my man. Great seeing you last night in the Zoom as well. But again, thank you to everybody doing the hype trains and sending in the bits and utilizing your Amazon Prime account, which you can utilize to sign up or subscribe to it. I'm not sure what happens over there on Twitch, but I know it doesn't cost you a dime. That I do know. So again, W's in the chat for Alyosha. Happy birthday, my brother. Appreciate you. What's going on, Dame? What's up, Blunt Front? What's up, Greg? Albert, how are you, my friend? What's up, El Rondo? Good to see everybody here. What's up, Yakov? Salute to you. Thank you to you and Tiff and Rox and everybody else in there, keeping that chat a safe place. Appreciate you guys. Couldn't do it without you. I've been very blessed to have some fantastic friggin' mods associated with this channel, and it's been a real privilege. So what's going on, Bethany, Forever Young, Jupiter Judy? How are you, dear? Thank you so much. And yes, Tiff, great start. We're going to start off right there on today's show, as we have been for quite some time. Another huge milestone hit. Another huge milestone hit, guys. Here, let me throw the chat in the side there. Much appreciated. Salute to you guys. But we have surpassed 20,000 euro, okay? We are now past 20,000 euro, 97%. I can see the finish line. I can smell it. I can taste it, as we are just days away from our trip to Estonia, ultimately ending up in Kyiv to hand over this vehicle right here that you guys have been so incredibly generous and supportive of getting us to this point. And again, I don't know the exact date, but somewhere in the vicinity of 3 weeks, okay, which is just mind-blowing considering the last time, this being our second campaign with Help 99 and the NAFO 69 Sniffer Brigade, to get vehicles over to the armed forces, the men and women of Ukraine. Last time, I think it took around 2 months, if I remember correctly. So to be where we are right now in 3 weeks, roughly 3 weeks at 97%, over 20,000 euro raised is just absolutely friggin' fantastic. Shout out to Scott, as you can see here, on the wall, says Ukraine is going to vigorously spit out the orcs the same way I spit out watermelon scenes. Glory to the heroes. Much appreciated, Scott, for your donation. Thank you to Becky, Rodney, Roxanne, Y. Harmeyer. I don't know if that's kind of like a weird thing that they want me to say. I don't know, but I'm going with it. So thank you to Mandy and Forrest and Nance and Frank and James and Roxanne and Petra, Thomas. Thank you so much for everything. Roxanne put one in on behalf of Mike. She says, R.I.P. Mike. Thanks for making my sister Diane happy. We'll miss you and your amazing Italian cuisine. Family gatherings won't be the same without you. So our sympathies go out to Roxanne for her loss and her family, and to dedicate that and your generous donation to this contribution. To this campaign is fantastic. So let's help get this done. Again, 3% to go. We're almost there. And like I said, in just a few days, we'll be heading out of Boston, flying into Estonia, and from Estonia, we're going to be taking on a very long road trip into Kyiv to hand over these vehicles personally, firsthand. And again, I am just honored and privileged and so thankful that I get the opportunity to do this on your behalf. And it's only with your help and generosity. And again, continuing to subscribe to the channel, all the newbies in the chat, and everybody that, gives this platform and channel an opportunity. Thank you guys so goddamn much for making this a possibility. So again, 169 donations, over 20,000 euro is absolutely fantastic to see. But thank you. A couple of the other things, because I know we kind of missed out on some of the topics that we'll be covering today. So obviously I want to get into the Team USA humiliating loss again after we had our Karen president basically call the manager of FIFA to complain about the food. It wasn't hot enough, or it was too cold, or some bullshit, to get our player back into the game. Obviously, karma being what it is, we lost 4-1. So I wanted to go into a little bit of that. I know a lot of people don't give a shit about sports at this point in time, but I think it is, kind of a convolution of two separate things, and exactly how Donald Trump's tried to utilize his power, in being the president of the United States to get things on his behalf. And then again, we'll detail the irony in the player. Again, Flo, trying to get Flo back into the game, and how he had become a U.S. citizen to begin with, and then Donald Trump's fight with the Supreme Court against birthright citizenship. Had he won that, and had he won this years ago, then again, that player that he fought and made so many calls to get to play, wouldn't have been a U.S. citizen, would have been on Team USA to begin with. So again, there's a lot of hypocrisy going on in that story. So wanted to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about what's going on with Mitch McConnell. Is the guy dead? Is he alive? Is his brain functioning? Why did his wife fly to China 3 days after this guy turned into a vegetable? So we'll go through a little bit of the story and news coming out around and surrounding Mitch McConnell and the Republicans that are either covering up for him or, again, demanding answers. It seems to be kind of one or the other on the Republican side. You're either, demanding, proof of life, basically, or you're saying it really doesn't matter and everything's doing fine. So I want to talk about that. Trump gets lost arriving in Turkey for his bilat meeting. There's a video that we saw where Trump kind of got off the plane, greeted the Turkish president, and basically had to be led by his arm to the final destination, to the end goal, wherever they were going to speak to the media, I suspect. And then after that, we'll get into all of the Graham Plattner nonsense, the sexual allegations, and why it's pretty much good to always consider that no good people would ever get Nazi tattoos. Would probably lead you down the right path. So obviously lots to speak about that. And then we have Ukraine hit the Omsk refinery. They hit Belgorod. And then we have some updates from Philip Ingram from The Sun as well. So lots to talk about. We also have a couple clips from the speech that Volodymyr Zelensky gave. So stick around, hit that like button. A lot to get through today. Very much appreciate you, as I always say, for supporting this channel and hitting that like button. So what do you say before we dive into a little bit of what's going on with the U.S. soccer team and their 4-1 loss, and Donald Trump and him trying to basically interject himself in that. I want to bring up a little bit of the news going on around the Strait of Hormuz, if I can, because Donald Trump and his administration would have you believe that everything's under control, everything's wide open. The prices are going to be right back to where they were, if not even lower, in no time. He's pissed off at all the gas companies for not lowering the gas price, quicker, sooner, based upon what Donald Trump's been saying. But as I can see, it seems like there's been at least 4 ships hit in the last 24 or so hours going through the Strait of Hormuz, which again is not detailing an Iranian side that's willing to capitulate or to bow down to everything that the United States wants them to do. They've continued to show that if you're going to take the route that is not subscribed, that is not, allowed by the Iranians, then they're going to fire upon those ships, which is exactly what we've seen. This was reported here. This is just 3 hours ago. Eric Doherty, who's a well-known maggot, he posted, a tanker has been struck in the Strait of Hormuz as President Trump arrived in Turkey with no casualties yet reported. There is new audio of Iranian threatening ships in the Strait. Don't mess with Trump, he says, or yada, yada, yada. Again, just not recognizing how futile he sounds in basically saying, don't mess with Trump, he could hit hard. Meanwhile, the Iranians continue to throw up the middle finger and say, listen, if you're not going to abide by the rules that we've set, that we've put in place with the MOU, then we're going to continue to show our presence. We're going to continue to show our power and control over the Strait of Hormuz, and that's exactly what they have done. This is just a quick Fox News clip detailing this update, and then there was one, I think we're about 17 or 20 hours ago at this point. I know OSINT Defender had it reported as well, so we'll go into that. And like I said, there's been kind of a few of these over the last 24 hours. Let me throw this back on the screen. This is just a quick Fox News clip of them having to and forced to update their viewers on what's going on around the Strait of Hormuz, and it's not good news, okay? Not good news. So
again, another reported tanker strike in the Strait of Hormuz. We think 2 have been struck. It might be more, but we'll hang on to 2 for the moment. A tanker struck by an unknown projectile trying to transit the Strait of Hormuz.
And again, this is as the United States is trying to open up its own corridors and, trying to filter ships through the Omani corridor, where, again, the Omanis and the Iranians have both said that that's not what we're doing. That's not how we're going to play ball here. You're going to send those ships through the designated Iranian route. You're going to have to, you're going to have to communicate with us. You're going to have to, at least deal with us to some extent. Or we're going to fire on those ships, or we're going to at least show our willingness to control the strait and fire in and around these ships if they don't, adhere to the policies that we've set in place, that we've put in place here. So again, detailing pretty much the opposite of what Donald Trump would have you believe is going on in with this fight and with their negotiations with Iran.
Another one made a U-turn and turned around. No casualties reported. Vessels are being advised to transit with caution. Meanwhile, from Fox Business, they've obtained audio of an Iranian threatening the ships in the strait, and here is how that sounded in English.
This is the last warning. This is last warning. This is last warning. You are running danger. Don't put your life in danger. You are ordered to alter course. Support us immediately. Alter course. Support us immediately and use the south of Florida Island to exit. If you disobey,
I mean, pretty clear instructions there, right? If you don't use the South of Ladrillk Island route corridor and you disobey what is again set upon and forth with the memorandum of understanding, then you will be targeted. Okay, so that's the translation there, or the message that went out in English. So again, not showing a willingness to capitulate, not showing that they are on the lower of the totem pole as far as power is concerned in and around the Strait of Hormuz. But again, like I said, this is on top of the other reports from, like I said, this is OSINT Defender from 17 hours ago, where it says the IRGC fired at least 2 missiles earlier at a pair of commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, with both ships being hit and suffered significant damages, but no casualties, according to Axios' Barak Ravid. And you can see here, Barak Ravid reporting the IRGC fired at least 2 missiles at commercial ships transiting through the strait, yada, yada, yada. This goes on here. This was 18 hours ago. According to a report from the UK Maritime Trade Operations, a vessel 8 nautical miles east of Lima was struck by an unknown projectile as it traveled southbound away from the Strait of Hormuz. No casualties have been reported at this time. And again, showing you in detailing kind of the position there in which it was struck, which is closer to the Omani side of the strait, which again, we've seen time and time again them say shouldn't be used and won't be used. That way they, again, can continue to show their control over the strait. But, I just wanted to start off the show and let everybody know what's going on in and around that. I know it's kind of been pushed to the back burner with all of the other nonsense, with all of the other bullshit going on in and around the news. But yeah, just to let you know that there's still not only that, but the strikes into southern Lebanon by Israel still happening. Their attacks inside of Gaza, their attacks on the West Bank, all of those still happening in direct defiance of the MOU, what the agreement is supposed to state, what's supposed to happen as far as the stipulations as that's concerned. But we've seen here time and time again that they fall up, that, everything that the White House says falls apart, turns to shit, which kind of leads us to the next story here, because, a lot of people speaking about this, rightly so, because it's just embarrassing on so many different fronts where, like I said, we had the Karen manager president of the United States decide to interject himself into the World Cup and basically demand the removal of the red card, which, again, another totally separate conversation, whether or not you think the red card was valid, whether or not you thought it was an infraction or not. It's beyond the point, right? It's irrelevant to the fact that the president of the United States decided to, in a moment, in a sporting event where you're supposed to have honor, integrity, decency, all things that, Donald Trump does not possess himself, decided to call Gianni Infantino and demand basically the removal of the red card so that our player, Flo, could get back into the game and again play Belgium. And this thing is just on so many different levels. Growing up playing sports, and again, the way in which that this is going to be associated with with Team USA and associated with Flo for quite some time now is unfortunate. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think karma kind of took place last night, where the United States kind of got its ass whipped, not kind of, but did get its ass whipped 4-1 against Belgium. One of the worst displays that a lot of people are talking about that they've seen in quite some time. But, that's what happens when you decide to have the president interject. But there was a quick clip here, and my apologies for doing this, but anytime you stand behind a fascist, anytime you stand behind an autocrat or a racist piece of shit like you're standing behind now, you're automatically in the line of sight. You're automatically, throwing yourself out there for mocking and ridicule and embarrassment. And I don't know what the hell this thing is to Donald Trump's right, our left, if you're looking at the screen. But Jesus, if there's anything to suggest that aliens do exist, it's on your screen right now. That's all I know. And then again, what's happening on the right side of the screen is no prettier as far as Ted Cruz. But this is just a minute of this that I want to play, where Donald Trump is questioned about the red card. And he goes on to basically state, first off, that he has no idea what he's talking about. And then he says he knows more about sports than anybody in the world. And then he decides to talk about how he made 3 phone calls to make sure that this guy could play. It's just all bullshit. It's nonsensical. The world saw it for what it was. It was embarrassing. It's clear manipulation. It's clear, playing favoritism by Donald Trump and the host nation of the World Cup to try to get the most beneficial outcome for their country. You know what I mean? So a lot of people speaking about this, a lot of people talking about this, and it's not just about the sporting event, right? It's more about how this is exactly how Donald Trump has used his presidency, has wielded his presidency for pretty much everything from tariffs to, bullying allies, to taking away and stripping rights of people in this country, taking away access to health care, making it more difficult to afford a home, making it more difficult to afford groceries. All of these things it fits right in line with the way that he handled this situation, which is why I'm calling it out here. And again, we don't have to spend too much time on this. We'll get right into a little bit more of the hypocrisy, which is another big aspect of this, which is, how Flo became a United States citizen because his mom came to this country. She was scheduled to leave the country because she was so pregnant. She was not allowed to leave the country. So he ended up being born in the United States, but grew up in London, right? So again, the hypocrisy in Donald Trump going to the Supreme Court and trying to end birthright citizenship, but fighting on behalf of Flo because, it would benefit his country and it would make him look, like an alpha man is again, just some of the blatant hypocrisy that we've seen here. But this is just a real quick clip of Trump being questioned in the Oval Office about that red card. And I just want to get into a little bit of his ridiculous and insane response here. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to stay away from that. And like they say, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't know what the fuck's happening there. This is what happens. This is what happens when you hang around with racists and bigots and fascists. You end up looking like that. But here's a question from the reporter.
I wanted to ask you, can you describe your phone call with Gianni Infantino about the red card? And Belgium is a appealing the decision. What's your
You're
reaction?
asking me about the whole soccer thing? So, yeah, I did. I spoke to Johnny, who's highly respected, who's produced the most successful World Cup in
He's
history.
not highly respected. He's actually the opposite. People know that he's a corrupt piece of shit and that he's a meager, weak, pathetic bootlicker that gives you presents and awards and medals to try to get into your fucking left pocket there. And you do everything you possibly can to keep him there because you think it feels good. So no, not highly respected. Everybody knows he and FIFA are corrupt in their own right.
They say 4 times. This isn't just a success.
And this
I
is the
actually
real reason why, the profits. This is the real reason. FIFA is totally, on board with doing anything that Donald Trump asked them to do, changing the rules, making it so that administrations can poke in and change this or that because of the amount of profit they've seen. And we talked about this in the Zoom last night, where this has filtered into pretty much every aspect of life. People speaking about the expense and the cost associated with the World Cup in general. Like, some of the the YouTube channels that I watch to get away from politics are speaking about the cost. Somebody went to, in one of the channels that I watched, decided to do a video, and he went to try to do a game in Canada. He tried to do a game in the United States, and he tried to do a game in Mexico. He found out real quick when he got here that the tickets were so goddamn expensive that wasn't going to be possible. It was like $150, $200 to park your car, right? I mean, not to mention just the cost of the ticket. In some cases, it was over $200 to get a ticket into the fan experience in whatever city that you were watching in. Right. So that's not into the stadium. That's into a bar, basically, that had a big screen watching the game. So the cost associated with this, the world's most expensive World Cup by far this year, is astronomical. And that's exactly why they're so eager and willing to work with each other and for each other here, as far as Trump and Infantino, to pat each other on the back and stroke each other off whenever they possibly can because of the amount of money that they're making. And no doubt, whatever, kickbacks that Donald Trump and his family are getting in the back end, he's not doing this out of good grace. You know what I mean? He's not doing this because he loves the sport of soccer. You can be assured of that.
These games, each one is turning out to be a Super Bowl. And we have all these games. When you think of it, every game is like a Super Bowl. Yes, I watched last night. What a game that was with Mexico and England. I mean, 2 countries. I don't know the players, although I think Kane is a great player. See, I played golf with him, and I like him a lot. He's a good golfer. But he's really great. But I watched, and no reason for me to watch, and you couldn't take your eyes off the game. Because I said, Johnny, you have all these games, because they added games. In a country where really it's not our main sport, to put it mildly. And this has been 4 times more successful. He told me last night the numbers are 4 times greater.
4 times more profit is what he's trying to get across. 4 times more profit is what they've seen. That's what he means in this. He's not saying it's 4 times more successful because the fans are having more fun or the cities have seen profit from this or, anything associated with that. It's because FIFA has seen more profit from this than they have in previous World Cups, which is exactly what their point was and why they're so, again, in Donald Trump's fucking left pocket here.
They think 50 or 60 million people are going to be watching the game tonight. I mean, this is getting to be Super Bowl numbers.
Yeah, well, apparently 50 to 60 million people watched USA get their ass kicked. Okay. And there was a lot more people, I can assure you, rooting against the United States last night because of the way that Donald Trump handled himself, because of the way that FIFA handled themselves. And again, the removal of the red card. And I have no problem. We said this last night. Had it been FIFA themselves who had gotten together with no phone calls from Donald Trump, had nothing to do with what the administration wanted, and they decided to take a look at it and review and say that it wasn't a red card, it was just a yellow card, then fine, great. I don't think anybody would have had a problem with that. I think people would have complained about it, but I don't think they really would have had reason to. But doing this is, again, it's having your mother or your father call the coach and complain because your son's not getting enough fucking, playing time. And, my son's always sitting on the bench type thing. That's exactly what this is. And it takes away from the honor and the integrity. It takes away from the other players on the team as well. It just turns it into a circus, a sideshow. And even if you do win, that win was going to be tainted. You know what I mean? So it takes away so much from the sport. It takes away so much from the players. And it's because of this guy's fucking, self-dealing, all of the things that you could associate with Donald Trump, and him thinking that he could just put his finger on the scale of anything and create some sort of beneficial turnout when the opposite is true. when everything that this guy touches turns to absolute shit. I think Midas Touch had a post that was talking about the recent sporting events that this guy had gone to, and I don't think he's seen a team win. I don't know the last time that Donald Trump went to a sporting event and that team won, whether it was the Kansas City Chiefs, the New York Knicks. I mean, the list is pretty much endless at this point of places and sporting events that he's attended or watched or had something to do with, where the team that he wanted to win got their fucking asses handed to them. And last night was just another instance, another example of that. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It put a sour taste in not only a lot of people's mouth as it pertains to the to Team USA and the United States in general, where again we can't afford much more bad tastes in other people's mouths as it relates to the United States at this moment. But again, as to the sport and the World Cup in general. You know what I mean? This is a moment where, many countries around the world are supposed to come together. And again, I continue to reiterate honor, integrity in the game, respect for the game. And that just kind of was thrown right out the window by Donald Trump here. And there was a moment where he brings up, and again, we don't need to go through too much of this. I thought it was actually a little quicker, but obviously he rambles on too long with his, his dementia brain that he's got going on. So I just want to throw on another 20 seconds of this, and we'll get into the hypocrisy of the birthright citizenship and the way that Flo Bellingham, actually became a United States citizen, which I don't know if Donald Trump's aware of. I can almost be sure that he's not, because he probably wouldn't have fought so hard to get him back on the field if he did know. So
really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other.
And a guy that knows nothing about sports, okay? He claims that he's this big fucking sportsman, loves sports, because he's golfed with a bunch of these people because they've donated to his campaign. He doesn't know shit about shit, okay? He doesn't know shit about golf. For a guy that's played golf his entire life and does more of that than actually running this country, you'd think he'd know a thing or two, but all he knows is a few players. All he knows is a few terms. Same thing about buildings and shit. Like, he thinks he knows everything about project planning and blueprints and construction. The guy doesn't know shit. Okay, he knows how to pick out a curtain that he likes. He knows how to pick out a gold rug that he likes. That's about it. Other than that, he doesn't know anything. He even stated in this press conference that he didn't know what a red card was. So how are you going to interject yourself into this and say that it shouldn't have been a red card when before this you had no clue what a fucking red card was? You know what I mean? Like, it's insane for him to, on one hand, think that he thinks that he knows more about everything in the world than everybody else. And on the other hand, every word that comes out of his mouth, let everybody know that he knows way less than anybody about those subjects. You know what I mean?
Take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going, no, these were two great athletes that got tangled up, and this referee, who is a little bit suspect. If you check his...
So now he's going after the referee, and nobody gets a bigger chuckle out of that than Ted Cruz. But before I let him go into the referee, let's talk about the hypocrisy of this, because I think Chris Hayes had a pretty good rundown of this. This was posted by the Tennessee Holler, and he's talking about Flo Bellingham, being an American citizen, but how he became an American citizen and how that compares to Donald Trump's fight with the Supreme Court against birthright citizenship, and all of the fucking maggots on Twitter and social media that were an uproar that, the Supreme Court upheld the Constitution of the United States and didn't, immediately put an X in a fucking, a flame into it. But this is Chris Hayes just with a quick clip talking about how Flo Bellingham actually became a United States citizen. And again, the hypocrisy between that and Donald Trump's fight against birthright citizenship. So I'll let him take it away real quick here.
But here's the thing. If you go a little deeper, you hit the wildest part of the story, something I have just been savoring all weekend, which is that the player at the center of the storm, Folarin Balogun, he is essentially an accidental American.
My journey to team's a little bit unique. My mom always told me the story growing up, but I never really paid it any mind. She came to the US to visit her sister, and she had her return ticket, but then they said that she was too pregnant. So I was born in New York, but grew up in London.
Grew up in London. You hear that accent? That's not a Brooklyn accent. In other words, the best player on the U.S. team, the one that we're all hoping plays and kicks butt, is a United States citizen by virtue of one thing and one thing only, and that is having been born here. And being born here makes you a citizen, clear as day, in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, passed after the Civil War, a constitutional right the Trump administration has tried tooth and nail to erase and tried to erase at the Supreme Court just a week ago and failed. In fact, Flo Balogun's situation is precisely the same sort of very rare edge case that MAGA has absolutely lost their minds about in the wake of that loss at the Supreme Court, to the point they are now trying to call women, like Balogun's mother, a scourge on American society.
They need to get moving and start deporting people as fast as possible, starting with birthing aged women, the birthing persons, as the Democrats call it.
If a person comes here 9 months pregnant to go look around at some things, in a couple of weeks, that is the mother of a lifetime American citizen and a direct line into American cash and welfare for the rest of that child's life.
Oh, shut up, you human-looking penis. Okay, you human-sized penis, bigot, racist piece of shit, Stephen Miller. You okay? That's been part of this country since well before Stephen Miller was a thing. Okay, well before Jesse Waters was a thing, and now they're mad about this while also trying to praise Donald Trump with their other hand, with the other side of their mouth, for again interjecting himself to try to get Flo Balogun back into the World Cup. Again, not recognizing the hypocrisy in what they're actually trying to do, and then again what they're trying to espouse and what they go on to Fox News and all these other channels to espouse against birthright citizenship. And again, the mothers that come here or have children here, and again, that's what it says in the Constitution. You know what I mean? So if you got a problem with it, you're gonna have to go a lot further than what you're doing right now to make a change to that. But you can see the hypocrisy in what's going on here.
Look, if you're pregnant and you're from a foreign nation, you know what? It's time for Congress to pass a law to say you can't come here.
I wonder if there's any examples out there of the unique advantages that birthright citizenship might confer on a society. I wonder if there's any benefits to having a country like that, where it's just clear as day, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Oh, look at that. Thank you, soccer gods. Here's one right there on the soccer pitch. Flo Balogun is American, and that is a wonderful thing. We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of birthright citizens, and that rules.
So again, that's Chris Hayes there, posted by the Tennessee Holler. And again, just referencing the blatant and outright hypocrisy of Donald Trump trying to benefit himself on the back of somebody that he doesn't even want to be in this country to begin with. The Republicans trying to benefit off of the backs of somebody that they would rightly kick out of this country in a heartbeat. Would have never let his mother come to this country to begin with. And now all of a sudden, they're his best friend, and they want to see him, the best for him, and they want to make sure that he's on the pitch for the World Cup. Well, again, like I said, the karma gods kind of spoke last night as it pertained to the final score, the final outcome in that game. And this was kind of one of the funnier moments that people are referencing after the game, where the Belgian team kind of looked like they were mocking Donald Trump's little jerk-off dance that he was doing. And this was posted by an account called Ketchup. It says, diabolical Belgian soccer squad does the Trump dance after destroying the U.S. team 4-1. You can see here just the top and bottom comparison of the little dance that they were doing. Also performed again in the locker room. I think there was a couple other clips, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I think there was a couple other ones here. It was one of them there on the pitch, and then, I think there was this one in the locker room as well. Belgian players did the Trump dance in the locker room after eliminating USA from the World Cup. Diabolical. So, again, rubbing it in just a bit where Donald Trump tried to lay his thumb on the scale, and, again, just turned everything to shit as he typically does. Speaking about getting turned to shit, though, it's kind of a good segue into this. It seems like a piece of shit would have more brain function and usefulness inside of the Congress right now than Mitch McConnell would. New stories coming out by the day as to what happened to Mitch McConnell, kind of how severe the thoughts and, his condition was during this time, how his wife went to China some 3 days after he turned into a vegetable, which is really, really strange, apparently, to meet the president of China, Xi Jinping, which is strange again because she hasn't been a part of the administration since the first go around. The whole thing's kind of bizarre. here. And like I said, there's kind of only two ways that Republicans are kind of viewing this. One is the Laura Loomer aspect, calling him basically dead on arrival and demanding, proof of life from his handlers, if you will. And then there's others, surrounding Mitch McConnell more closely or friendly to Mitch McConnell that are trying to, again, butter everybody up, obfuscate, defend, make it seem like he's doing a lot better than people are suspecting that he's actually doing. But this is New York Times says McConnell has been hospitalized for 3 weeks and aides won't say why. There's some of these go on in detail. Exactly what happened that night that the ambulance was called, and it doesn't sound like it was a good situation by any stretch of the imagination. And we've seen this coming for quite some time, right? Between Mitch McConnell's freezing, the way that he looks in general, really. Thank you, Colleen. Very much appreciated, and hopefully. That reminds me, Colleen. Thank you so much for reminding me before we jump into Mitch McConnell, which sounds terrible. Before we hop on to the Mitch McConnell story, I'll rephrase that one. But I think I have it fixed as far as the super chats. I think because of the refresh and the update that StreamYard did, something changed as far as the settings, but I think I did find it. So my apologies to anybody that I've missed over the last couple shows because StreamYard didn't put them to the side so I could thank everybody at the end of the show. But I think I have that cleared up now. So Colleen, thank you so much for allowing me to test that. Thank you so much for the $20 contribution. Colleen says, I think Trump should do a photo op with Mitch and clear up the mystery. Yeah, that's just two dead people. You wouldn't even, that's almost like you'd have to make the joke like you make with John Cena. In that picture, like, I don't see anybody. You know what I mean? That's what you'd have to do if there was a picture with Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell together. It would just be two corpses at that point. But thank you so much for your $20 contribution. And again, getting me the opportunity to test out the setting change that I had. So, all right, let's jump back into this coverage here because, like I said, there was a bunch of them coming out. There was this one from the New Republic as well. Mitch McConnell was found unconscious before he was rushed to the hospital. Republican senator's condition still remains unclear weeks after he was hospitalized. We'll go into just a little bit of this. I'll make this a little bigger on your screen so you can see it. Is that a little easier to see for you guys? Yeah, that makes it a little better. So let's go here. We'll start from the beginning and just go through some of the reporting here. It says Mitch McConnell was found unconscious before he was rushed to the hospital last month. Punchbowl News reports that former Senate Majority Leader, who is retiring after his current term ends in January, lost consciousness at his Washington, D.C. home at 8:36 a.m. on June 14th. It is now the 7th of July, in case anybody's wondering, before a dispatcher sent over an advanced life support ambulance, which is never a good sign. Journalist Desiree Townsend posted a recording of the call from the emergency dispatcher Tuesday afternoon on X, which again just details them sending out the different medical units that they were sending to his house. The audio has not been independently verified, and McConnell's office has not commented on it. On the last day of the month, a spokesperson for the 82-year-old McConnell said, quote, he was receiving excellent care but didn't elaborate further. On June 22nd, his office issued a statement saying he was, quote, working closely with staff on Senate business and Kentucky matters as he continues his recovery, end quote. And this Tuesday, one of his staff members said that he was recovering and working with his staff. And let me just remind everybody what this corpse is actually responsible for within our government, right? So we got Senator Mitch McConnell serves on 5 standing Senate committees holding multiple chairmanships and ranking memberships. His primary committee positions include Committee on Rules and Administrations as the chairman, Committee on Appropriations as a member, chairman of the Defense Subcommittee, Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry as a member, chairman of the Food and Nutrition, Specialty Crops, Organics, and Research Subcommittee, Committee on the Budget, he's a member, Joint Committee on Printing, he's the chairman, Joint Committee of Congress on the Library, he's the vice chairman, and I'm sure there's a few more assignments that Mitch McConnell is responsible for as well. But again, a guy that has less brain function than the turd that you guys left in the toilet this morning is, that's a problem. That's a pretty big problem, I got to say. You know what I mean? But again, there's people sticking up for him, and then there's people calling this out as well. His office had not said anything about his condition or prognosis, nor if he was still in the hospital. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said June 15th that McConnell is clearly dialed in what's going on. You can't write this shit. You really can't make this shit up. He's following along with stuff we are doing this week up here, very much so. He couldn't follow the shit when he was out of the hospital, okay? He didn't know what was going on when he was there. You're trying to tell me that he understands what's going on now after he was found unconscious and was pretty much in a vegetative state for the last 3 weeks in a hospital? That's what you want us to believe? Bullshit, okay? It says here, is this still the case? This is the second time McConnell has been hospitalized this year, having spent 8 days in the hospital for flu-like symptoms in February. And in the past 3 years, McConnell's health has severely deteriorated, which has been very, very noticeable. Pointing out that video where he was basically carried out to the fucking car. I think if you're at the point where you're getting carried out to the car, your brain stops functioning mid-interview and you just sit there and freeze up. When you're more purple than you are actually like normal human skin color, then it's a problem. Then we should probably find some replacements and maybe set some limits as to how long people could be in these positions. I'm just saying, But it says here in March 2023, McConnell fell at the dinner event in Washington's Waldorf Astoria Hotel, fractured his rib while suffering a concussion. He suffered another fall in July and in public appearances that year froze mid-sentence twice, which I'm sure you guys have seen, disassociating for 20 to 30 seconds each time. The attending physician at the Capitol later declared that Mitch McConnell hadn't suffered from a seizure, stroke, or movement disorder, and was likely dehydrated or experiencing the after effects of his concussion. December 2024, Mitch McConnell would fall again at the Senate Republican lunch, spraining his wrist and cutting his face. He also tripped and fell in a Senate building October 2025 while walking with an aide to help as a reporter asked him questions. McConnell seemed determined to stay in the Senate seat until the very end, refusing to step aside early because of his health. 6 more months might be too much for the former Senate leader, and his refusal to step down has drawn the ire of Republican colleagues and critics for the gerontocracy there. So again, more reporting coming from that. There was also, let me throw this on the screen as well, because this was Adam Cochran put this on Twitter, and he says, welcome to day 6 of Mitch McConnell presumably brain dead while his staff decides to ignore the rumors. He says, if you're just catching up, and he kind of lists what's been going on. He says McConnell had a cardiac arrest on July 14th. He's been in hospital since then. His wife is in China. Like I said, Elaine Chao went to China some 3 days after his, her husband went into this vegetative state after he was rushed to the hospital in basically, I'm not sure if it was technically critical condition, but I would assume it to be critical condition if an advanced life support ambulance had to be sent. So it just, the whole thing's strange. The excuse given, like I said, she was supposed to meet with Xi Jinping, if I'm not mistaken. Why the fuck would Elaine Chao be meeting with Xi Jinping? Hasn't been affiliated or associated with the administration since the last fuck up they had, the first term. Also talks about how his daughter deleted her social media. 2 weeks ago, Leader Thune claimed he spoke with McConnell, who was doing well. His staff claimed he is recovering well and working closely with staff for the people of Kentucky. No first-person statement, tweet, or other comms has come from McConnell in that time. He has not been released from the hospital. In Kentucky, governors didn't appoint replacements to the Senate without constitutional challenge, and the special election needs to happen. If you run down the clock, you can force the special election to happen the same day as the actual election, making it harder for any non-party backed candidate, which is Thomas Massie in this case, to win the special, and more likely that the GOP candidate just gets seated early. The media is now only starting to even ask questions, but it's well past time we get an official statement on the health of Mitch McConnell. And you can see here a lot of people kind of on the right-hand side of things, and people on both sides of the aisle, all sides of the aisle here, kind of demanding answers as to what's going on. This is, so basically Mitch McConnell is a vegetable on life support in the hospital. His wife fled to China, so there's no one with power of attorney to pull the plug or give up his seat. Republicans are scheming to avoid a special election. Republicans can't win unless they cheat. Mitch McConnell's holding political power beyond an unresponsive and vegetative state, while his Chinese wife, and again, my apologies for the commentary given here, but I'm just showing you who's speaking about this type of thing, leaves for China, telling him, taking no telling, what's that say? Taking no telling what state secrets with her in the process. And again, you can see how these idiots and morons are calling it out on Twitter as it's both people. And you got Laura Loomer here. Elaine Chao served as Secretary of Transportation in President Trump's first administration from 17 to 21. Is she a Chinese spy who flees the country to China when their husband is a brain dead and attached to life support machines? Why did she flee to China? You can see where this is all stemming from. So I can assume, let's see, this was 21 hours ago. And let's see here. What was that other one I was just reading? Yeah, 3 hours ago. So well after Laura Loomer had put her tweet out. So you can see where these mindsets and these thoughts and the rhetoric kind of originate on this fucking shit site here. But a lot of people speaking about this, a lot of people kind of demanding proof of life, as you guys were speaking about in the chat there. So I wanted to make sure that we touch base and keep everybody up to speed on what's been taking place with that and the ridiculousness of, people inside of our Congress that basically have no brain function, but still hold all of these titles, still have all of these positions, all of this power and prestige, and again, aren't, working within the rules, guidelines, and regulations in whatever state they may be in about the elections that are upcoming. So I just want to, like I said, touch everybody, make sure that everybody's up to speed and on the same page with what's been taking place with McConnell. I know a lot of people have been speaking about this in the chat for the last couple of weeks, since his heart attack, since the ambulance, since this has been announced, and wondering what the hell is going on. Well, we're kind of getting no direct answers. Obviously, like you heard from John Thune, everything's okay. Everything's fine. Don't mind the advanced life support ambulance. Don't mind the fact that, Mitch McConnell was basically a dead man walking before he even had any of these fucking recent problems. Everything's cool. He's following along closely with Kentuckians. He's working closely with the rest of Congress. Has no clue where he is, or what's being said, but boy, does he know what's happening. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't get us to believe both things. You can't give us no proof of life. You can't have him not tweeting, not giving any interviews, not giving any statements, and think that like he's diligently working behind the scenes, when we saw him just before this happened, and that wasn't anything that was happening diligently. Let's just say nothing that Mitch McConnell was doing, regardless if it pertained to politics or not, was getting done diligently or quickly or rapidly. You know what I mean? But all right, like I said, there's this moment as well that people are speaking about, which was Donald Trump's arrival in Turkey. Let me throw this on the screen. And he pretty much had to be led by the arm. Okay. And this is something that we've seen pretty consistently, whether it was his trip to China, whether it's been different NATO summits or different bilateral meetings that he's had with different foreign dignitaries. We've seen them pretty much have to lead him around with a leash to get him to stand in the right spots, to get him to speak to the right people. This was just a really quick clip that people are referencing here where, Donald Trump again decided to do exactly what he used to call Joe Biden out for, right? When he used to say, remember how they used to clip all those things together and make it seem like, Biden was talking to nobody or shaking hands with a ghost, as they used to say. Well, now they're kind of making themselves look like idiots based upon that, because of how much Donald Trump does this in real time that everybody can see, and we don't have to manipulate the video. We don't have to edit things to make it look like that's happening. No, this is real time live TV that people are seeing, and time and time again in all of these different bilat meetings, NATO summits, whatever you want to see, G7 meetings, all of them. And this is just this more recent one here from his trip to Turkey that people are talking about. And watch where, the leader that he's speaking to grabs him by the arm and pretty much just walks like they're a couple down the red carpet, or blue carpet, I should say, to get Donald Trump into the right position. Check this out. I'll skip ahead to where they start walking. So yeah, pose for pictures. Very cute. Nice. Yep. Hope you didn't shit yourself, sir. Can you smell me? Nope, we're outside. Hopefully the wind's blowing away from your nostrils, sir. So then they do this. They talk a little bit more. Look at him. He's already holding his hand. Watch this. Look at him. Like, I don't think he has any trust whatsoever that Donald Trump knows where they're going, can get to the end of the fucking carpet. Like, watch this. So Trump stops, kind of looks around. Ready? No, this way, sir. No, we got to go. No, you want to go? We're going to go down here. See that? He literally has to point to the end of the blue carpet. No. We're not stopping in front of these soldiers, sir. We're going to stop. See where the blue carpet ends? See where all the people are waiting for us to kind of speak and take pictures? That's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to go. Still got him by the arm. Still got him by the arm. Again, it's just insane that he's the representative, that he represents this country still. When he's meeting with, Erdogan there in Turkey, it's just, I don't know. The whole thing is just ridiculous. Time and time again, he's embarrassing us on the world stage. Time and time again, everything that he said about, any one of his former opponents or Biden or Kamala, he does himself in broad daylight, in real time, in front of all the cameras and the microphones and the spotlight. All of those things that we can continuously point out. This is just, again, one small moment where it looked like he's fighting, or, the people were fighting to kind of keep him on track there as well. But just the list is endless. I mean, remember the part? What was it? The G7 meeting where he's pushing all the leaders out of the way. He made a speech where he said he's done more for the United States than any other U.S. president, and they laughed in his face time and time again. I think it was I don't know if it was the China trip. I think it was the China trip where he was kind of walking around the room, and like the leaders and the people that were, assigned with getting him into the right position were again guiding him into the correct positions because he had no idea where to go, which way to turn, anything along those lines. So again, like I said, there's about a billion of those. Oh, thank you guys so much. And yes, it does look like it's working. Thank you so much, Colleen, again for the 10 gifted memberships. Thank you to Shovel Dead. Very much appreciate that for the $20 contribution, says Semper Fi in the chat. Right back at you. Much appreciated for you joining us, and very much appreciated for you contributing to the community that we have here. So big shout out to you. Big salute to you. All right, let's get into I don't know if it's going to be the main story or whatnot, but what everybody seems to be talking about here. Absolutely no surprise as far as I'm concerned. I think if you've watched this show long enough, you know exactly where we've stood on this. You know exactly what we told you to watch out for. We told you exactly what red flags were kind of glaring and blatant, and kind of led us to believe that there may be some more skeletons to come out of this closet. And the skeletons are coming out fast and furious now, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a good time, and it is I don't even know what you'd want to call it. It's a real kick in the balls, we'll call it. It's a real kick in the balls to the progressive movement. But luckily, what I find solace in is the fact that it was the policies for the people. It was the things that were espoused that were going to be put in place. It was helping the working class people. It was stopping the genocide. It was taxing the billionaires. It was, making it more affordable to get homes. All of these things that were inside of the rhetoric of his campaign, I think is the bright spot in what we have to focus upon here, and not, again, this dickhead that put us in this ridiculously shitty situation. His campaign, the people that were supposed to have vetted him, all of those scumbags that have led us to this position right now. Obviously, the people that really didn't heed the warnings or see the warnings that were right there in front of everybody's face to begin with. But again, I keep going back to the policies and how popular they are and how much people want to see those policies enacted. So what we need to do is, obviously, it's very important that we take the Senate. It is very important that we defeat Susan Collins. Abso-fucking-lutely. So it shouldn't be that difficult, really shouldn't be that difficult to find another candidate that can espouse, that believes in, that wants to see everything that was involved in this campaign as far as policies, as far as what he wanted to enact, and take the reins from there. Right. I think that's the bright spot in this, is that there were people that were so desperate to see these fucking policies enacted and to see the working class, blue collar people in this country actually looked after, that they were blinded, that they were actually so willing to see those enacted that they kind of set aside a lot of the red flags. I think that's kind of a bright spot, right? It may not seem like it, and maybe kind of an unpopular opinion at that. But again, I have been screaming from the fucking rooftops and been called a disruptor, and been called this name, that name, and the other name, because I've been pointing out what I believe, and in my opinion, were things that I could not overlook, right? Which things that led me to believe that there were way more skeletons in the closet and things that we were going to learn, and this was going to end up like a Fetterman. Okay, well, we didn't even get to that fucking point, and I don't know if it's been said yet by this scumbag here, if he's dropping out specifically, because I know he put out the video that said he was taking time to. There's nothing to think about. There's no time to take. Get your ass out. We should have kicked this motherfucker out with the steel-toed boo the second we learned about the fucking Totenkopf. Okay, bye. Can we agree now that there are no good people that get Nazi tattoos ever? No, for any reason whatsoever. I don't care if it's out of blatant ignorance. If you're that fucking ignorant, you shouldn't hold a position of power. If you knew what the fuck you were getting, you shouldn't hold a position of power. How about we start fucking there? But where I will say, like I said, going back to what I see as a bright spot is the policies, and the people of Maine and Colorado and New York City that want to see these fucking policies enacted. And in some points and in some cases were willing to overlook a lot of the red flags that they saw with their own eyes to have those policies enacted. So it shouldn't be that fucking difficult with the progressive movement, with the popularity of the progressive movement, with the popularity of the progressive policies that these people were espousing, to find a candidate candidate out there that is willing to take the reins and run with the taxing of the billionaires, ending the genocide, all of the things that we need to focus on and see the leaders that we put into power espouse and try to get into policy. You know what I mean? I just don't think it should be that fucking difficult. It's a shame that we are where we are, but I'm not going to be the one to sit here and I'm not going to be the one to not sit here and say, I told you so. I just take there's no benefit for me in it. I don't take any gratitude whatsoever in being the one to say, oh, well, look, this is exactly where I thought we were going to be. And we didn't even make it that far. Okay. We didn't even make it to the fucking Fetterman position. But this is put out by Politico. A woman who dated Graham Plattner says he sexually assaulted her, and we can just call it what it is at this point in time, right? I mean, I think we're all adults here, so it's not sexual assault, it's rape at this point. I just want the truth out there. I just want people to have the whole scope of who he is as a person. She said of the Maine Dem who has faced a string of scandals over the past offensive online comments and accusations of mistreating women. Plattner responded that these allegations are troubling, serious, and false. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is yada, yada, yada. But again, way too much here. Everybody should be stepping away from this at this point in time. If you were still willing to kind of carry the water for this campaign, it's time to dump the fucking bucket out right the fuck now. Okay, that's it. It's over. It's done. It's finito. Somebody else, again, like I said, needs to pick up these reins and carry on these progressive policies that people want to see enacted. They want to see these things enacted. They don't want the billionaire class to be raping, pillaging, and plundering this country anymore. They don't want to see their friends, family, co-workers, sons, daughters, granddaughters, whatever it means, struggle to put food on the table, struggle to buy a house, struggle to pay rent, not be able to have kids because they can't afford it, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So there's so many different aspects to this. It's incredibly disappointing, but I do think that a lot of people saw it coming. It's a big strike against obviously the whatever lack of vetting process that actually did go on there. And again, this is from credible accusations with evidence to back it up. Recently put out here. And like I said, this is by the Politico article. I'll put this on real quick. This is from the actual article here. Woman who dated Graham Plattner says he sexually assaulted her. A woman who dated Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner says he forced her to have sex with him nearly 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections. An allegation Plattner denies. The woman, a 40-year-old Maine resident named Jenny I don't know how to say that, Rakicot, my apologies, detailed the allegation incident in Politico in 3 interviews over the past 2 weeks. Politico also spoke with a man, Rakicot, I'm going to go with, dated and confided in the years after the alleged incident and reviewed documents, including emails between Rakicot and her therapist and messages between Rakicot and an acquaintance whom she warned against getting involved with Plattner years ago before he ran office. So again, this isn't something that was thrown together without evidence, without corroboration, without things to back it up and to substantiate it. And again, a lot of people looking at this, rightfully so, as a very credible accusation, okay, as a very, very credible accusation with things to back it up. And it's high time in this country that we start fucking believing women and stop making them fucking jump through hoops, hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop to prove the criminalities. Or at least spark the investigation into some of these high profile, whether it be politicians, businessmen, foreign dignitaries, whatever it may be at this point. Believe the fucking women. And when there's this much smoke and people still think that there's no fucking fire, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. Then you're just blind to everything at that point in time. You know what I mean? Whether it was the double downing on the bigoted, misogynistic, racist comments. Again, whether it was the ignorance displayed in getting and having a Totenkopf tattoo for as long as this guy did. All of these recent allegations and even more that are behind the scenes that people are still hearing about. Like I've heard about other stories that are possibly, allegedly to come out against Graham Plattner, and it wasn't even this one. Okay, so this is the moment that we're in, unfortunately. Like I said, this Political article pretty much putting the nail in the coffin, as it were, for Graham Plattner's campaign. And like I said, we need and shouldn't be difficult for somebody to step up in this moment to carry on the policies, the very, very popular policies Let's see here. Just a little bit more from her story here, just to kind of show you how much has gone into this. It says here that Racicot previously described reckless and unsettling behavior by Plattner to the New York Times, but she said she didn't go public with the specific assault claim because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim. Racicot said she later felt compelled to go public about her experience because the reaction to the Times story was dominated by controversy about another woman, Lindsay Fifield, who allegedly Plattner mistreated her and faced attacks because of her ties to the Republican Party. Contacted by Politico, Fifield, stood by the allegations she made by the Times and declined to comment further. My part of the story was just a read over, Racicot said in an interview, as the story was Lindsay and the accusations of her being politically motivated. Racicot said she was torn over coming forward, in part because she agrees with Plattner politically, which is just something else that, a lot of people were pointing out in some of the previous allegations. There was some, I think, heritage fund ties and obvious right-wing ties, which again, right on the face of it, doesn't mean that the allegations aren't true, but it was giving people some ammunition to try to question it and call it out. This isn't kind of afforded to those people in this situation, her being in the, the unfortunate position to agree with Graham Plattner politically, like the things that he was saying about his campaign, wanted to see those things enacted. So torn on what to do here, but obviously, couldn't hold it in any longer, needed people to understand who they could possibly be casting a vote for. So it says here, one of the reasons I didn't come forward sooner was the huge moral conflict that I had between supporting his politics, but not supporting him as a person. She said, I just want the truth out there. I just want people to have a whole scope of who he is as a person. In a statement, Plattner campaign reiterated, and I won't even fucking bother doing that. It says Plattner is an oysterman and political newcomer. When he launched his Senate campaign late August, easily won the Democratic primary last month to face GOP Senator Susan Collins in one of the nation's most highly watched Senate races. It goes on to say his remarkable rise has been tainted by controversies, including offensive online comments and allegations of past mistreatment of women. He has not previously been accused of sexual assault. The Iran and Afghanistan war vet has linked some of his behavior to mental health struggles and alcohol abuse, but he says he's changed and denied previous claims, yada, yada, yada. Like I said, the Blackwater affiliation, the racist and the bigoted and the misogynistic comments, I think should have painted a pretty clear picture of this. And obviously, a lot falls on not only Graham, but his campaign and the people that was supposed to do the vetting process as well. Because I did see an interview where, the person that reportedly did the vetting said that they spent a shitload of money, but a lot of it didn't come back. Okay. They didn't find out a lot of the Reddit posts. They didn't hear about a lot of these sexual allegations. A lot of it was missed. And now that's having a huge impact on this race. It's having a huge impact basically in midterms in general, and that's the position that we were all hoping to avoid. But I don't think anybody should have any problems at this point in time being on the right side of this argument here. It says Racicot showed Politico recent emails with her therapist in which Racicot explained she was talking to the media about her relationship with Plattner and the SA/rape, using an abbreviation for sexual assault. In the message, Racicot was not ready to go public and was seeking help corroborating her account in conversations she was having with reporters on condition of anonymity. Her therapist responded that Racicot shouldn't have to speak publicly about a traumatic incident in order to be believed without referencing details in any particular incident. The therapist, who Politico agreed not to name at her request, declined to comment when reached on Monday. Racicot also shared details about the alleged assault to the man who she dated after Plattner, who she began dating in 2022. The man, who was granted anonymity out of concern for his personal privacy, told Politico that Racicot had told him in bits and pieces about a bad experience with Plattner before confiding the full details of what had happened in 2023. His account of what Racicot told him and the incident matched what Racicot told Politico. Racicot shared with Politico a series of private Facebook messages she exchanged with an acquaintance in 2023, about a year and a half after the alleged assault and well before Plattner launched his political career, in which he cautioned the acquaintance getting involved with Graham Plattner. In the messages, Racicot said she had ended up in a bad situation with him, quote unquote, describing Plattner as, quote, consensually careless and saying he does not listen to you when drunk. Reached by Politico, the acquaintance said she received the messages but declined to comment. Politico granted her anonymity at her request. to protect her privacy in her main community. And again, here's the I saw your post about the oyster the other day. I feel morally obligated to warn you if you were anything more than just friends, get with Graham. But if you're not, then I'll just shut up for now and give you the scoop sometime. Just friends. Would love the scoop though. Is he still engaged? And then she goes on to again detail her accounting in her relationship or friendship as well with Graham Plattner there. Political also spoke with a friend of Ray Scott who had been told about the alleged assault last summer, shortly after Plattner launched his campaign. The friend to whom Politico granted anonymity due to fear of social and professional backlash recalled Ray Scott telling her about the incident, including that Plattner had been very drunk and wouldn't take no for an answer. Ray Scott said she was contacted by the New York Times in spring and shared off the record that Plattner had assaulted her. She told the Times that she had some positive memories of her relationship with Plattner, but thought he did not respect women and had cut off contact with him after the incident in 2021 when Plattner had come over drunk. But the Times article stated that Ray Scott declined to elaborate what had happened, only describing his behavior as reckless and unsettling. A spokesperson for the Times declined to comment. After the publication of Times report, Ray Scott connected Cheyenne Hunt, a progressive Democratic lawyer who founded the nonprofit Reckoning Action, who launched earlier this fight to fight misogyny. Hunt, who had endorsed Plattner last fall but renounced her support from him after the Times article, previously supported women who came forward with assault allegations against former Rep. Eric Swalwell earlier this year, prompting him to drop out of the California gubernatorial primary and resign from Congress. NBC News previously reported that Hunt was working with multiple women who had past relationships with Plattner. Hunt connected to Politico with Ray Scott there. Let's see here. If she goes into detailing that, because I know she sat down with Graham Plattner. No, excuse me. My apologies. With Jake Tapper. Sorry, the face on the screen glitched my brain there. Let's see this. After said on MS Now last month, the New York Times reporter Plattner declined claims that he had physically mistreated women, yada, yada, yada. And like I said, it's pretty clear that this was not something that is made up, that these are very credible allegations that line up with other allegations stemming from Graham Plattner's past. And again, lining up with all of the other red flags. I think there's only one thing that should be done here is obviously the demanding of the stepping down and the removal of him from this race in general is the appropriate measure to take, is the appropriate thing to demand here. And I don't think there's really any question about that anymore. So unfortunately, it's a situation where a lot of people getting the opportunity to say, I told you so, but really not taking any solace in doing it because of the unfortunate position. And again, thoughts and, our deepest respects go out to the victims here. And it's unfortunate that we still have today in our society people that are out there saying that they don't believe them right off the bat with no evidence to the contrary of anything that they suggested or reported. It really is sickening what we've seen. And again, I do want to reiterate here, I want to make it very fucking clear that every Republican, every conservative, and every MAGA can stick it up their ass as far as speaking about this. Okay, the last people on fucking earth that should have something to say about this is the pedophile protecting Republican Party, the people that have no fucking problem with people like Matt Gaetz, the people that have no problem with the people like Donald Trump, clearly Jeffrey Epstein, Howard Lutnick, the rest of these sick fucks that they have in their party right now. Anything that, we can go from Ken Paxton, you can name 1,000 of them. They obviously don't care about the people that have been arrested in the Republican Party and having ample amount of child porn on their fucking computers or anything like that. Clearly, you're still willing to vote for these people. You have no problem with anything they've done as far as these allegations or untoward things they've done in their past. So you guys can stick it right up your fucking ass as far as that's concerned. I don't need to hear a goddamn word from a single one of you as far as Graham Plattner is concerned. I think we're qualified to handle it on our own over here. I think that's what we're pretty qualified and capable of doing. So to think that we don't see the hypocrisy in the Laura Ingrahams, in the Tucker Carlsons, in the Jesse Waters, in the who's there, Ted Cruz and the rest of these pricks, McCarthy that was trying to do it as well, trying to make it seem like, oh, they're held to a higher standard and they hold their Republicans to a higher standard. Bullshit. Okay. You guys quite literally have the Epstein administration in power right now. the same people that have all of Donald Trump's friends, all of Donald Trump's past relationships and fucking years and years spent with Jeffrey Epstein hidden up in their little fucking redactions that they got going on, still not releasing the entirety of the Jeffrey Epstein fucking files, which should be called the Donald Trump files at this point. So everybody can, you can stick a sock in it as far as the conservatives and Republicans are concerned. Again, this is not your fight, because you have no fucking leg to stand on as far as this is concerned. You are the last people that should be speaking about this just right off the bat, period, fucking point blank. I want to make that very goddamn clear. So, all right, let's see if we can jump on to our next topic of discussion here, which is going to be a little bit of updates from Ukraine, because we got a lot to talk about. There's been some strikes into Omsk, which we've been suspecting as far as Russia's biggest, if not one of the biggest refineries that they have going. And then there's been some strikes inside of Belgorod. There was some statements made by Volodymyr Zelensky as well. So we got a bunch to kind of get into right now. So I want to start off just with the Sun here, which is, let me throw this on the screen here, which I believe is just a quick update. What are the updates they do? It doesn't have any commentary on it whatsoever, but I do believe it has some text just describing what we're seeing as far as the compilation of footage here. This is titled Ukrainian Forces Launch HIMARS Rockets at Russian Gas Site in Belgorod. This is just one of the effective attacks and strikes that we'll be talking about. There's also this one that I'll throw on as well. This is from Georgi at Ukraine Matters. He's talking about the turning point. Ukraine forces Russia into a total collapse is the title of this one, and we'll be talking about, I believe, the strike on the Omsk refinery as well. And then we got this to get into, which is a couple statements, couple posts by Volodymyr Zelensky in his speech at the bilateral meeting. I believe he's also in Turkey there. And then to round it out today, see if we have enough time to get into this as well, because this is from Philip Ingram, who's just given an update basically around the Fortress Belt, which is another area of concern, place that we need to keep an eye on as far as the front is concerned. So let's see if we can throw this on your screen real quick. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Thank you guys so much for everybody that not only deals with our bullshit and sticks with us through all of the domestic policy and the domestic concerns that we have inside of this country, but also as we talk about our passion here to support the people in the armed forces, the men and women of the armed forces of Ukraine as well. So much appreciated to all the Barnacles sticking around to the end of the show. And again, this is just a Sun update. This is Ukraine at War is the title, and it says Ukrainian forces launch HIMARS rockets at Russian gas site in Belgorod. And this is just a little bit of a compilation of some of the footage coming out of that with some text on the screen to kind of fill us in on what's been going on. So if you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much to everybody that's been gifting in the chat. Thank you to everybody that's been responsible for keeping this show going, whether it's gifting subscriptions, whether it's $1, whether it's $2, anything. It all goes a long way to help. All we ask for is $1 or $2. Anything beyond that is totally up to you guys. If it fits within your financial capabilities, I'm not going to stand in your way. But again, $1 or $2 is substantial enough as far as a contribution. If you could throw it into the Venmo, if you could send it in a super sticker, super chat, that would be fantastic. And again, at the end of the show, we make sure to highlight, congratulate, say thank you to everybody that does send in a Venmo, a super sticker, a super chat, anything like that. If you hit a milestone too as well, that all gets congratulated and appreciated at the end of the show. So all right, let's dive into a little bit of this, and we'll have to explain it. Like I said, I don't think there's any commentary on this one, and then we'll get into a little bit of the other news coming from Ukraine as well. So it says Ukrainian forces struck a Russian natural gas distribution facility in the city of Belgorod using HIMARS rockets. You can see here on your screen the impact there, the effect of the strike. And again, like I said, this is just going to be doing a little bit of compiling of some of the footage taken by some of the Russian citizens in and around this strike. See a pretty substantial fire in the background going on. Says at least one HIMARS launched GMLRS rocket tore a hole in a pipeline, setting it ablaze. And again, this is in the Belgorod region. Another angle of it there. Gas supply interruptions and power outages reported in multiple parts of the city. says 1 person was killed and 3 injured, according to Russian sources. And again, this is after, a few devastating nights that the Ukrainians have felt as far as under the Russian missile and drone attacks. I think there was another, I want to say 7 or more people killed inside of Ukraine on yesterday, as far as Russian drone and missile attacks are concerned. We've seen recently more and more of the civilian infrastructure being targeted as far as videos and footage coming from the recent Russian strikes there. So this is obviously showing that the Ukrainians obviously still having the ability to strike back and still target these very important different pipelines, refineries, whether it be down in Crimea, whether it's inside Russia itself. So again, this is kind of back and forth, as it were, a little bit. And again, all this just being put on Telegram by the Russians in the area, showing you the inability that Vladimir Putin has to basically control or curtail all of the footage that he doesn't want to make it onto social media, because obviously this is detailing the efficacy of the strikes for the Ukrainians. If they didn't have drones in the skies themselves to look at this or to view whatever the target was, they could utilize and do utilize these different Russian social media posts that show exactly what took place, how long the fires are burning, what type of rescue services and emergency services are in the area, if there's any fighting the fire, those types of things as well. So again, Ukrainian forces also successfully hit Belgorod International Airport, now a large Russian helicopter base with HIMARS launched rockets. Big night for the HIMARS. Again, we'll just kind of fly through this. Like I said, I know it's kind of tedious where there's nobody talking in the background, but it says in other news, Ukrainian attack drones carried out one of their deepest raids, hitting Russia's Omsk oil refinery over 2,400 kilometers behind the front lines, which is probably a good segue into this video right here, detailing exactly that. This is the strike on Omsk. This is, like that just said, about 2,400 kilometers away from Ukraine. And this is one of, if not the biggest oil refineries, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I think he details it here. Georgie from Ukraine Matters. He says the turning point, Ukraine forces Russia into a total collapse. So let's see if we can get into here. I'm going to speed this up just a touch, see how much we can get through. This is, like I said, Georgie from Ukraine Matters talking about this strike in Omsk. And we can pull up on the map if you want, detailing exactly where that was.
Waiting for this, and it finally happened. Omsk oil refinery finally got hammered by the Ukrainian armed forces. Biggest Russian oil refinery, 2,500 kilometers from Ukraine, and it is now in the reach of Ukraine. Hey there, George.
Sorry.
Here with Ukraine Matters.
Up the map in the
Let's look at what's happening at the front line and how bad Russia is doing in the war overall, because it is pretty bad. In this and many other pro-Ukrainian community, Omsk refinery has been in the eyesight for a very long time. People have been wondering why Ukraine still cannot really reach Omsk refinery. 2,500 kilometers is nothing to scoff about, but everyone was still expecting that at some point Ukraine is going to reach it, and they finally did. We already have some first in the hand.
And they've already reached well beyond this, right? I mean, again, not to stifle any of the reporting there, but anybody that was kind of shocked or is continuously shocked about the ability that Ukraine has to strike deep inside of Russia, I just clearly doesn't look like they've been paying attention, right? I mean, let's go to this. I'll show you where Omsk is on the map. Here's Omsk in Russia. So again, this is, we could probably even go in closer to take a look at the refinery, which I believe is at the north end of the city, or the town, whatever you want to call it here. So this whole thing, I want to say, is the oil refinery, more, the greater processing plant itself. You can see here the tanks, right? Here's the tanks, and then you can see, if you scroll around, a lot of the other tanks and equipment that are associated with it. So a very ginormous oil refinery, as we could see here, something that would be pretty substantial and continues to be pretty substantial if the Ukrainians can do, severe damage to it. But, we'll scroll out, and I'll just show you where this is in relation to Ukraine, in relation to some of the other strikes that we've seen, okay? So let's just scroll out a little bit. We'll scroll out a little bit. Scroll out a little bit. So just to detail some of the other strikes that we've seen. So if we went further this way, right? We can go to Irkutsk, and we can go to, let's see, where's Mongolia? So I think Irkutsk is in this area over here, if I'm not mistaken, because it's so goddamn big. Let's see, scroll in just a little bit. Here's Turan, Arban. Let's see, Tulin, Zima, Zari, Angansk. Why was it so easy earlier to find it? Go out just a touch. Because I know it's right on the border of Mongolia there. So I think it's over here. Oh, yeah, right here. So here's Irkutsk. So there's another one of the areas that we've seen hit by the Ukrainians. And then if you go even further this way, right here is Chita. So here is Chita, which is where we saw more of the not strikes, but definitely the effects of the Russian oil and fuel shortages that we've seen as well. So, I mean, just talking about, these are some, I think, 5,000 kilometers away. So just to kind of detail exactly what we're talking about, you can go back to Omsk and show you where that is. So there's Omsk right there. And if we continue this way, you can see where Moscow is in relation. So here's Omsk right here. Here's Moscow way the fuck over here. You know what I mean? And then obviously you can show where Ukraine is. Here's Ukraine in relation to Omsk. Can I get it on the screen at the same time? Yes, I can. So Omsk, obviously above my head, Ukraine there. And does this allow me to do a ruler? So we can go, let's just go from Kharkiv to, we'll go from Kharkiv and see how long it is, see what the exact distance is. So we'll add a point there, and then we'll add a point in Omsk, which is right here. So we are some 1,585.76 miles away from at least Kharkiv, which is, again, these refineries still feeling the effects and feeling the strikes there. So, again, it helps me to show on the map, or it helps me to view on the map where these sites are. I know it's one thing to hear 2,500 kilometers, 2,400 kilometers, strikes deep inside of Russia, and it's another thing to see with your own eyes just how deep inside of Russia it is, and where else that the Russians are feeling these effects from, again, the oil refineries being hit, the gas and the fuel shortages themselves. So let's throw back on Georgie here from Ukraine Matters, and he can talk about a little bit more about this strike on the Omsk refinery and how much damage was done.
Information about what specifically got struck, and the results are good. The reports are that 2 of the major refining towers have been struck. So most likely this refinery is now going offline. At least large capacity of this refinery is going offline with no ability to really repair it quickly, because a lot of the same equipment have been struck on other refineries, and it's now a deficit product inside of Russia. So we can update our bingo card. We see that a lot of refineries got struck. Most of the refineries that Ukraine can reach have.
And this is crazy, because I know it's probably too small on your screen to see, but each of those little things that you see under the namings of the, the names of the refineries is different dates that the Ukrainians have struck that specific oil refinery or processing plant, whatever it may be, right? So you can see here, this one struck at least 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This one struck more times than I can count because it's so small. And you can see here the number of times in which a lot of these different refineries have been targeted. And not just targeted, but actually struck and have taken on substantial damage, goes to show the inefficiencies, the inabilities that the Russian air defenses have to mitigate these attacks. And as the Ukrainians are able to put up more and more drones, as these drones get more and more capable, as they get more and more efficient, as the warheads on the missiles or the drones get bigger and bigger, as the range of the missile and drones get longer and longer, this is going to become more and more of a problem that Russia is absolutely going to have to try to do something about, because as of right now, they've seen like little things, little different tactics put in place, whether it was like, the gun trucks following behind or in front of the different resupply vehicles down in Crimea, only to flee the second that they actually see a drone and recognize that they're not able to shoot it down. So that wasn't having the effect. We've seen the camouflaging of a lot of the supply vehicles going into Crimea to make it look like they're like civilian farm vehicles or working for different, civilian-owned, operated businesses and not the military itself. That hasn't had much effect. The drones and the cameras nowadays are way too good and way too, they're way too professional. You know what I mean? They've been doing this long enough to recognize when they're trying to be fooled and what is a military vehicle and what it looks suspicious, what looks out of place. So we've seen a different, drone teams going in there. We haven't really seen much more of that, though, as far as like successful mitigatory tactics by the Russians Russians to try to, again, defeat this onslaught of Ukrainian drones and missiles that have been hampering them both inside of Russia itself and also occupied areas of Ukraine as well. So let's see if we can go on.
Struck current smaller refineries that we see here, well, they are about 2,800, 3,400 kilometers, and most important.
Oh yeah, you can actually see the distance as well. It actually shows you the distance and how far away. So 2,500 kilometers, 810 kilometers, 480, 800, 700, 1,300, 1,400. Down here at the bottom, we go 1905, 2730. 2,810 kilometers, 3,405. Which one was that? That's in Ukrainian, so it's hard to tell, but 3,405. This one is 4,455 kilometers. I mean, pretty substantial strikes, obviously.
Like this 6,400 kilometers. Everything else is fair play, and Ukraine is doing their best. But Russians need to realize that all of this is going to be a fair game very, very soon. Already now, as Ukraine is striking the refinery in Omsk, right now we see already the producer of Flamingo missile, Firepoint, telling that their new version of the FP1 drone is now being tested, and it has the range of 3,400 kilometers. So the next refineries, please, lined up. And Ukraine is continuing their operations also in Crimea and other occupied territories, but in Crimea specifically, where there's already a big shortage of fuel, now there's also a shortage of electricity. Ukraine is draining any and all resources from Crimea. Right now, the bridge is becoming a very, very acceptable target for Ukrainians to strike at some point. At least definitely they have the ability to reach it. We saw strikes around the bridge already happening. So to be honest, it's not a too far-fetched idea that at some point Ukrainians are just going to strike the bridge. They haven't done it because there's, I guess, some kind of a plan, but it is very clear that whatever...
I think, and again, this is just my suspicions, what I'm suspecting. This is not confirmed or corroborated by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that the Ukrainians know that there will be likely a huge response by the Russians if, in fact, they do inevitably separate and completely cut off Crimea by attacking the Kerch Bridge, by really destroying the bridge. I think they understand that there will be, above and beyond the responses and the retaliations that they've seen and continue to see night after night, as far as Russian assaults into civilian infrastructure, but it goes along with what Zelensky was saying in his speech, which was the need and the necessity for more and more Patriot missile batteries, for anti-missile batteries to mitigate against the recent onslaught that they've seen by the Russians. We've talked about the success rate and the percentages of the missiles that they weren't able to shoot down, and how those missiles have huge impact, huge effect on the things and the targets that they hit. So Zelensky went on. Let me see if I can find the moment in which he said, we'll just take a look at that right now. Yeah, he says here that I believe Europe urgently needs its own capability to produce anti-ballistic systems and the missiles that they require. We all value the Patriot system. It is an excellent system. There are others as well. But today, wars have shown that the current Patriot production is not enough to meet the growing demand for protection against ballistic missiles. That is a fact. We must respond to that fact. Those who defend life need more Patriots. We also discussed Patriot production licenses with our own American partners. I asked you to support our efforts to make this happen, from a speech at the NATO Defense Industry Forum from Volodymyr Zelensky there. So, he's kind of saying that he's surprised that we haven't, as far as allies, the United States and people that produce them, stepped up the production of these missiles to a point where we're not at need for them, right? We have more than what we need. We have almost too many than we know what to do with. We're having such a successful time and at such a success rate shooting down these ballistic missiles from Russia that, congratulations to all the allies. Thank you for putting together this hard work and ramping up production and making sure that you can send countless amount of these Patriot missile systems and everything else that goes along with them over to Ukraine so we could utilize them in different areas of the front and everywhere in our country here. It's a shame that we still haven't recognized how important the production of those things are right now. And again, it's just my suspicion. Like I said, that then it also could be something else totally in the works, rightfully so, that they want to see like more defenses in place, better defenses, and the ability to shoot down more of these ballistic missiles and to take out or to reroute whatever it may be to make sure that they don't hit their intended target, these ballistic missiles, before they go and actually chop the legs off of Crimea and make it so everybody that's there is stuck, and that the Russians have to figure out the next way or a different way on how to resupply the people there or get them out of there, whatever it may be. But definitely a totally separate shift in the war is what that will be, and I just think it's maybe a little bit of that, you know what I mean? Obviously, it's not totally one complete decision based off of one thing or another. There's multiple nuances. There's many thousands of different things and data sets that you need to take into account and figure out, and who's going to be harmed by this and what needs to be done, what's going to happen after this is possibly done. So many different things, but it's like I feel like he'd and I think this is kind of easy to say, I think he'd want to have more air defenses in place before ultimately taking that, you know, what would be final and what would definitely be seen by Moscow and the Kremlin as an escalation. I know they've drawn lines in the sand after lines in the sand and red line after red line, only to be you know, kind of called on their bluff every single time. But, you know, they have shown the willingness to continue to show and to throw these different drones and missiles into civilian populated areas time and time again in Kyiv and obviously all over the place in Ukraine. So I just think that may be some portion of it. But let's see if we can jump back into this Georgie from Ukraine Matters to detail a little bit more of what's going on down there in Crimea.
Russians think is going to happen in Crimea, it's not going to go their way. It's getting worse, and it's going to get even worse very, very soon. And all of this is happening because we are supporting Ukraine. Ukrainian fundraiser that we're doing for the FPV drones for the 93rd Brigade is still ongoing. We are very, very close. Over 300,000 already gathered. Guys,
it's fucking so fantastic to see this. It really is. And shout out to Georgie here at Ukraine Matters, and shout out to Preston Stewart and Jake Bro and Anna from Ukraine and everybody else that tries their best to utilize their platform to help as much as they possibly can. We're talking about here, countries and allies have not stepped up. I have not seen the need, the necessity for doing as much as we possibly can to arm and to outfit the Ukrainian military in their fight against the Russians. So they do it, and they're willing to do it on our behalf, so we don't send our sons and daughters over there to have to fight if they eventually, and God forbid, you know, do something drastic to make it past Ukraine or to take over or to achieve their goals, only to push further into Europe, which is absolutely something that they will try to do if they are not stopped now and, right this second. So to see that, you know, he's able to raise, I think he just said he was at some $300,000 of his $400,000 goal in his channel. I know Jake Bro just started $1 million campaign for the NAFO 69 Sniffer Brigade, which is just unfucking believable that, you know, YouTube or Twitch or Instagram could be utilized to that extent to get a community together, to raise that much awareness, to raise that many funds for this campaign, for this fight, is absolutely incredible. So again, a big shout out to these people utilizing their platforms. It's definitely something that I've tried to copy here, something that I have learned to be able to do and hope to be able to do more of here with our platform and this channel and this account. Like I said, we're just mere days away from, taking our trip to Estonia. I should probably tell my mom at some point, right? That's probably something I should probably inform her of. But yeah, just days away from taking our trip to Estonia, only to then immediately drive from Estonia into Ukraine to deliver these vehicles firsthand to the 3rd Operational Battalion, the artillery platoon, which is going to be, again, the honor of a lifetime, the privilege of a lifetime to get to do that on your behalf here, for the Blunt Politics community. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this 20,500 euro goal. But, like I said, it's incredible to see what, other people are able to do and continue to do for this fight in, with their private platforms, not affiliated with governments or, not being backed by, this organization or that organization. So pretty cool to see.
Let's do our best. Let's try to close it up and make sure that Ukraine finishes summer strong with all of the supplies that we can provide it. Trust in Ukraine and support Ukrainian.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for stopping in. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out, and we'll see you on the next one, okay? Appreciate you.
armed forces. And with all of these things happening, one would expect that Putin will address this whole situation seriously, what is happening in Russia and the occupied territories, but instead he's participating in the cosplay events, where in unknown location that are camouflaged from the inside rather than the outside, he met while wearing some of these weird Russian fatigues with the generals that were serious faces, explained how well Russia is doing. And
this
then
is the meeting that we talked about the other day. Wes brought it up in the chat. Basically how bad he looks, you know, whether it's the balding, whether it's the saggy neck that apparently all dictators and autocrats get. Like, I don't know what fucking disease causes the vagina on the neck, but apparently it's like seeing yourself as a dictator, seeing yourself as like an alpha, just like generally produces the vagina on the neck syndrome. Because Vladimir Putin's definitely got some of that rubbing off as far as Donald Trump is concerned. But yeah, he looks terrible. He looks pale. He was very low energy. You can tell that the pressure is getting to him, the pressure campaign from all sides, whether it's the people that want him to go deeper inside of Ukraine or the people that want him to stop this fucking foolish war that he's enacted, this detrimental war to his country that he's enacted. So he's getting it from all angles. I know they're trying to rely upon the propaganda victories that they're trying to say are happening in and around Konstantinivka. And that's not to say that there aren't some gains being made. There aren't some definite problems being faced by the Ukrainians in and around that area, but they are not to the extent in which, you know, you'd have all of these different propagandists and maggots on Twitter and other, you know, other sites like Threads have you believe, where they're just drawing in red crayon anywhere that they suspect the Russian military holds. You know, we've seen, you know, the flag raising opportunities that they've tried to utilize as far as propaganda. We've shown you on multiple different maps where the territories lie based upon the evidence, based upon the facts and what you can prove happening on the ground at this point in time. And it is not kind of lining up with what the Syriac map is showing, what the Russians are trying to state. And again, not lining up with their own military bloggers' assessments of the slow advancements that they've seen recently comparative to the rest of this war. So they've seen not only the most losses, but the slowest amount of territorial gains as far as this war is concerned, more recently, very recently. So not boding well for the Russian military. I know they continuously try to use their propaganda wings, their propaganda arms to say that they're doing better than they are. But again, there are multiple different fronts in this fight. There are good things happening. There are successes happening for the Ukrainians. There are, you know, things to be worried about as far as the front is concerned as well. It's a war. There's no one side is doing great, one side is losing aspect. It's very nuanced. It's hard to get into the ins and outs of exactly what's going on, and we try to do our best here to give you both sides of the information. Not to keep you thinking that one side is right upon the stages of victory, and we're just on the cusp of that. You know, we try to keep you based in reality. The things that we need to be worried about, we tell you to be worried about. The things that we tell you to be happy about, and things that are good that are happening, we report on that as well. So it's probably a good time to jump into a little bit. Again, speaking of what's going on around Konstantinivka, this was a little portion from the Battle Plans Exposed show on Sun with Philip Ingram. And I just want to go through just a little bit of this just to keep, like I said, everybody updated on every aspect of this, or as many aspects as we possibly can, not just Crimea, right? Not just the successful Ukrainian strikes inside of Crimea, not just the Ukrainian successful strikes inside of occupied Ukraine as far as the Donbass, Luhansk, and Donetsk, not just the successful Ukrainian strikes inside of Russia, deep inside of Russia. We also have to report on the strikes from Russia inside of Ukraine. Obviously the destruction and them continuing to target civilian infrastructure. Obviously, we're going to continue to talk about what's happening here around the Fortress Belt. So I try to do as much as I possibly can to keep you guys up to speed on every aspect of this. I know there's inevitably things that are left out and missed. I'm only human. I try to do the best that I possibly can in getting up to speed with, all of the domestic problems that we're facing, while also recognizing the importance of this fight as well. So
the total lack of...
My apologies. Sorry, Georgie was dying to get the last of his report out there. All right, so why don't we get into a little bit of this Philip Ingram report of what's taking place in and around the Fortress Belt, and then if we leave ourselves enough time, we can jump back into the Ukraine Matters Georgie update about a little more of some updates around Crimea and the recent Ukrainian strike. So, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to bring you this news, to bring you this coverage, to represent the Help 99, NAFO 69 Stiffer Brigade campaigns, the way that you guys have so generously and greatly and professionally represented those campaigns. So to be here on your behalf, handing these vehicles over is going to be, again, the privilege of a lifetime, and I'm just very, very excited to get to do that for you guys. So, all right, let's jump into this. Much appreciated. Hit that like button. My name's Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics, the little political podcast that could, just trying to sift through the bullshit, the propaganda, the lies of the mainstream media, Donald Trump and the Republican Party at large. If you join the opposition, if you want to be part of the resistance, if you find a welcoming spot here in the chat, in the community that we've built, please think about subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get to 25K before midterms so we can have some more weight behind our punches that we're throwing here, all right? Very much appreciated. All right, little updates detailing what's going on in and around the fortress belt here. This is detailing Crimea shut down as Ukraine strikes hard of Putin's fortress. So I think that's more of a generalized title there. Let's see what we're getting into here.
Progress against the fortress belt has triggered deep desperation within the Russian ranks. This culture of deception has left Vladimir Putin completely detached from reality. We're now getting more casualties than the Russians can replace. They're also hitting Russia exactly where it hurts, in the heart.
Again, just detailing the difficulties in not only advancements as far as territorially, but also the uptick in what they've seen as far as the death toll, right? I believe he's going to go on here in just a second to tell you about the recent month's death toll and how that stacks up with the rest of the war. So let's see, we'll play another minute of this, and then I'm going to skip ahead to about 8 minutes in where he talks about the fortress belt here. Speed it up just a touch.
As Putin demands more air defenses to protect Moscow, and Russia suffers its worst fatalities in a single month, there are important updates from the front line. I'm Philip Ingram, and this is Battle Plans Exposed. A staggering 26,000 Russian soldiers were killed in June alone, marking the highest monthly death toll of the war so far. The tide is turning.
26,000 Russian soldiers were killed in the month of June alone, as he said, marking the highest death toll as it pertains to this war, since it began. It's getting worse for the Russians. It's not getting better. It's not showing that they are, getting better at the fight, that they are acknowledging kind of their inefficiencies and trying to mitigate those and develop different tactics. We've seen time and time again them do the same thing, only to lose and continue to send people into the meat grinder that is the Ukrainian armed forces and get chewed up and spit out every single time. Some extent to, in some instances, we've seen some change in tactics, whether it's the, kind of the smaller groupings, the smaller man groups trying to infiltrate behind enemy lines and then slowly trying to build up a force big enough to try to, engage in some sort of attack or whatever it may be, but, hasn't really seen the effect that they wanted it to see. But let's see if we can go on here.
Vladimir Putin knows it. Momentum is shifting on the battlefield, with Ukraine securing key tactical gains across the front lines while keeping Russian troops under relentless pressure. Beyond the trenches, Kyiv is systematically choking Russian supply lines and triggering a severe domestic fuel crisis through a massive drone blitz on Russia's critical oil infrastructure. With multiple refineries hit and occupied Crimea effectively under siege, Ukraine is tightening its grip on key logistics hubs, dealing a devastating blow to Moscow's wartime economy. Before we analyze all of that, let's begin by looking at what's happening on the front lines. Dramatic new footage captures the moment two Ukrainian FP5...
It still kills me that the person taking this video that you're seeing on your screen right now knew that this was a flamingo. Like, you can hear it just at the beginning of his report right there. Listen to the background. I know you might not be able to pick it out or make it out, but the person videotaping this flamingo missile going by knows it's a flamingo. Like, that just baffles me. It really does.
Before we analyze all of that, let's begin by looking at what's happening on the front lines. Dramatic
the flamingo, no. So you hear that at the beginning. He knows what type of missile this is. He knows what type of munition this is. And, for the Russians to get this kind of up to speed on what's attacking them goes to show just kind of how familiar they're getting with these circumstances. So again, another not good sign for the Russians, another not good sign for Vladimir Putin. But I'm going to jump ahead here to, like I said, about 8 minutes in, and he details more specifically what's going on in and around the fortress belt. So I'm going to start about 8 minutes, and we'll see what we can get into here. Much appreciated to you guys.
Forces have ramped up their pressure to the point where they now execute roughly 45 to 50% of all daily offensive and assault actions along the line of contact, while Russian offensive activity has seen a noticeable decline. Syrskyi has added another update to that, and turning around and saying that we shouldn't underestimate the strength of the Russian capability on the front lines in the east. But he is beginning to detect that the Russian troops are getting close to exhaustion. His focus is on dealing with medium range and longer range strikes, attacking the ability to reinforce those troops, their logistics, to get equipment to them, and to try and stop those troops from being moved around in the front line. So if they try to move, they will be destroyed. And he's beginning to recognize that that is.
And again, these are all problems that the Russians are facing before they make it to the cities that, again, make up the fortress belt. So again, we're talking about some 10, 15 clicks, some 10 to 15 kilometers in some instances away. Like, it's going to be a much different story for them if, in fact, they ever do make it to these positions that they're hopeful to make it to. It's going to be one hellish fucking nightmare for them, based upon the time in which the Ukrainians have had to fortify these different cities, bring in reinforcements, bring in men, women, equipment, whatever it may be at that point in time, recognizing that this could be something that they were facing recently. So it's I don't know what they're hoping for, but when they're this tired, when they're moving this slowly as far as the Russian military, to then have to go into the fortress belt cities and try to, displace the Ukrainians from them is going to be one fucking hell of a fight that they are definitely not ready for.
But has been very careful to say that it is too early to suggest that the Russians are weakening to a point where there's going to be any massive change in what's going on.
All right, here we go. Fortress belt.
Ukraine's formidable fortress belt, Lyman, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and Kostyantynivka in the Donetsk Oblast is holding remarkably strongly, successfully blunting Russia's costly offensive and grinding the Kremlin's advance to a near total crawl.
So you can even see on his map, right? The map that he's detailing right now, and I'll let that play
successfully
just a second.
blunting Russia's.
I mean, you can see where he has the Russian positions, or where, again, the people that do their research for whoever puts together their maps have the Russian positions. And again, they still haven't even taken over the entirety of the settlements prior to Kostyantynivka. I believe it was it Ivanopilia was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. But, you can see here the difference in the distance they are between Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Lyman as well. So even if they do hope to close this distance and get into Sloviansk or Kramatorsk, I don't think they're ready by any stretch of the imagination for what they're going to face. And talking about the losses that they've seen now, talking about the lack of territorial gains or the speed in which they're able to achieve these territorial gains. Once they get close, the closer they get, the more difficult it's going to get for them. And the more they're going to see losses, the more they're going to see exhaustion, the more that the Ukrainians are going to try to take out the resupply to the front, thus cutting off the people that are trying to enact these assaults in the first place. So again, it's just going to be one hellish nightmare for the Russians. The more and more they feel like they're going to try to push into these areas.
Costly offensive and grinding the Kremlin's advance to a near total crawl. New battlefield data reveals that Russian forces have managed to advance an average of just 3.79 square kilometers per day throughout June. This represents a massive collapse in operational momentum compared to August of last year, when Russian forces were advancing more than 4 times faster. The stubborn Ukrainian defense.
4 times decrease, right? So they were advancing 4 times quicker as far as August of last year, as he was stating, than they are seeing as far as gains and advancements now on the front lines. And this is when they're, again, trying to overly state their gains, overly state their propaganda victories, which we've called out time and time again here, utilizing different maps to show you that they are just, the fact that they were able to wave a flag in this one geographical instance does not mean that the entire Russian military now occupies that territory.
Belt in the Donetsk Oblast is utterly shattering Moscow's strategic timelines, with Russian forces needing to capture over 5,300 square kilometers to seize the remainder of Donetsk. Military experts assess they're highly unlikely to meet their newly extended deadline of December the 31st, 2026. And this is about the 4th deadline that Vladimir Putin has put on his troops to capture Donetsk. On the ground, Russian troops have shown absolutely no ability to rapidly advance or restore fluid operational maneuver against Ukraine's heavily fortified positions. The total lack of progress against the fortress belt has triggered deep desperation within the Russian ranks. Facing relentless pressure to deliver results, commanders on the ground are turning to manufactured victories, ordering dangerous flag-raising stunts and submitting fraudulent reports up the chain of command. This culture of deception has left Vladimir Putin completely detached from reality, acting on highly inaccurate assessments of his military's.
And again, much like we saw the deeper we got into World War II, Hitler was increasingly detached from reality. Was not keeping up with what was going on the front, was only getting, reports from people that were willing to give him good news, moving around militaries, as we've talked about at the end of the war, that no longer existed, that had been wiped off the face of the planet by either the Russians or the Allied forces. But again, Hitler was continuing to move them around on the map like they still existed. Generals that weren't willing to tell him the reality of the situation, very similar to what's taking place here. And we went over this last show, just how detrimental this could be to a military when you think you're 10 or 15 miles more advanced than where you are, and you're trying to, again, utilize that information to jump off and to use, to get across further action. Then it sets you up for failure right off the bat. So time and time again, we've seen this happen where the commanders are being used and thrown up this propaganda, and they're more than happy to throw that up the chain of command to their higher ups so they can get more resources, a bigger kickback, a promotion, whatever it may be. Meanwhile, that's not what we're seeing on the front lines. That's not where the troops actually stand, and they're having a big problem. And you can see the closer they get to this fortress belt, the slower their progress is, and the more difficult it is for them to gain every single inch of ground. And that's only going to get more magnified the closer they get. You know what I mean? That's the more that they push, the more that's going to be magnified as far as death and destruction is concerned on the Russian side. So let me see here.
Capabilities. In recent public statements, Putin focused heavily on the fortress belt, falsely claiming his forces had cleared most of Lyman and were sitting just kilometers away from Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. But independent intelligence paints a vastly different.
Zip it. Where'd you go? Come on. You can do it. You can do it. I know you're still there. All right, let me throw this on the screen real quick. Because I just wanted to show you. This is the deep state map, okay? And I just want to continue to drill this home. We'll continue to look at Konstantinivka and what's happening around here, right? So this is deep state map showing you what's going on. So here's Ivanopilia, here's Plashivka, which is what I was just referencing. So still, to this moment, to this day, as you can see here, 6/7/26, which is the 6th of July, as they put their date and day, compared to how we do there in the United States, in case you're getting all confused about that. But here is, as of today, what can be confirmed by Deep State. Plashivka still not overtaken, still not fully occupied by the Russians, okay? Even Napilia, still not occupied fully by the Russians. Konstantinivka, right? Here's Konstantinivka. So it's being battled over. Here's the gray being contested. Here's the Russians making their pincer movement into, which we've talked about, which we've said it's not a great situation by any stretch of the imagination. It's been said by multiple Ukrainian officials, and it's been said by multiple, military bloggers and military analysts looking at this, that it's kind of an eventuality that Konstantinivka will fall. It's just how many Russians need to die and how long it's going to take, right? To say that they've taken over the entirety of this, and even tried now to say that they're pushing into Osakove, they're pushing into Alexeyevo, Drushivka, and even in some cases into Drushivka, based on some of the propaganda reports on Twitter and other aspects of different social media sites. They're trying to say that they're all the way up here. Meanwhile, Deep State map can't even confirm that they've taken over all of Ivanopilia or, all of Plashivka, right? So obviously these pincer movements, something to watch. Because it's not necessary that the Russian military take over Plashivka and even Ivanopilia before they get into Konstantinivka. If these pincer movements, again, can successfully meet up in the center here, then they will have cut off anybody that's caught in this area anyway, and it will become increasingly more easy for them to round up or to get everybody, again, that was caught in the pincer movement and cut off by that. So it's not like I'm saying it's necessary for them to take these, but if they haven't taken these, it's definitely not really, likely that they've already taken all of Konstantinivka, as they'd have you believe. I think even the military analysts were saying that it was some roughly 30%, and I think that's even kind of being a little bit beneficial to the amount of ground that they have, as you can see here. But you can go to, let me see if I'll throw this one on the screen now, because we can go to the Syriac map, and I'll just show you the difference, right? As we've continuously tried to do here, is just kind of keep you up to speed on what the different maps are saying, the differences between them, the propaganda that's faced here. Let me throw this on real quick. So this is the Syriac map, as we've talked about, is more, beneficial, is more leaning to the Russian side, the Russian propaganda being said here. Let me see if we can go into, where the fuck am I now? Here's Pokrovsk. Here we are. It's so hard to figure it out because they have everything in a different color here. So here's Konstantinivka. So they have here on the Syriac map all of Konstantinivka, right? All of Ivanopilia and all of Pashivka under direct Russian control. Okay, the entirety of it. That's what they try to state by this whole, red shebang that they got here. Not only that, but here's Konstantinivka. So they've pushed through and taken and occupied currently right now, per the Syriac map, all of Konstantinivka, and even further now have made pushes, like they've said, into Osakove and even further into Alexeyevo Drushivka, right? Which, again, is just ridiculous. I think we talked about this on the last Preston Stewart video. Preston Stewart's in Turkey right now, I believe, for that NATO meeting. So I think we may be a couple days without Preston Stewart videos, but I think we can take over here where he's going to be absent for the next couple days. But yeah, this is the difference, as you can see here in the Syriac map between the deep state map. We've also talked about the Institute for the Study of War and their map, which more directly correlates to the deep state map, not directly, not, one for one exact, but definitely more along the lines of what the deep state has here to confirm, rather than the Syriac map that you can see here, which is more heavily favored and leaning towards the Russian propaganda and what they espouse. So again, just want to make it well known to you exactly what's taking place and how these different things are being utilized as far as propaganda. But the actuality of the situation is the slow progress and the high death rate that the Russians are now facing, and that's going to, like I said, become even more blatantly apparent. Let's just say the closer they get to Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Lyman, the fortress belt cities themselves.
A tiny 4% of Lyman and remain up to 3 times further away from key cities than Putin believes. Ultimately, Ukraine's defensive grip on key strongholds like Lyman, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk is forcing the Kremlin to expend catastrophic amounts of manpower and resources for virtually no return. This is what is called trading space for time. The Ukrainians recognize that the Russians are fixated on towns. We have Bakhmut. Bakhmut took the Russians almost 2 years to capture. We have Pokrovsk, again, another 2 years. We've got the Russians attacking into Konstantinivka, attacking into Lyman. They're nowhere near capturing either of them, no matter what the reports are that are coming out. Never mind then Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. UK Defence Intelligence last year assessed that at last year's rate of Russian advances, it would take the Russians another 4 years and 2 million casualties to get right across the uncaptured areas of the Donetsk.
I mean, that's amazing to talk about right there. That is absolutely amazing to talk about. 4 years and 2 million casualties just to finish out the rest of Donetsk, right? I mean, can everybody remember what the original stated goals were for the Russian military? Was supposed to be Kyiv. We had armored tank columns going into Kyiv from the north here. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that it would take them another 4 years and 2 million casualties, even to stretch into the to gather and to occupy the rest of Donetsk, when again, their whole plan was 72 hours, and they would occupy Kyiv here. You know what I mean? So to then scroll out and to say that 4 years on, by some analysts' suggestions and accounts, and 2 million casualties, they'd only still be in about this rough area, this general area right here. So again, that details just how well the Ukrainian military has done in this fight, based upon where we were, what we saw this war start off as, which was, babushkas and, different Ukrainian citizens out there with fucking Molotov cocktails ready to take down these armored columns. It was the Russian military vehicles with dry rotted tires, the tanks with, instead of ERA, which is the explosively reactive material on the outside of the tanks, which is supposed to help with shoulder fired rockets and make the detonation basically happen outside of the tank and not on the tank or inside of the tank. Well, those were rubber. Okay. Those were all filled with rubber. We saw them trying to utilize Katyusha rockets, which were fucking World War II weapons that were taken out of museums. So again, right off the bat, from what we've seen in this, not really, very effective by the Russian military, but definitely something that we need to give the Ukrainians credit for. Their ability to hold off, their ability to keep to this portion of the country. Obviously, the missile and drone attacks is another story. But as far as boots on the ground, as far as the Russian military and their advancements, territorial gains, and occupation, it's amazing to see just how minimal the territorial gains are compared to what their stated goals were, as far as the 72-hour operation or thereabouts, as far as the going right into Kyiv, taking over the government and occupying and taking control over the whole country. So when you put it in perspective, when you talk about how long this war has been going off and where we still are, right? The Russian propaganda doesn't have a leg to stand on. Because no matter what, even if they try to utilize the propaganda in and around Konstantinivka, we can talk about the slow progress. If they try to utilize the propaganda about them hitting infrastructure and civilian targets inside of Ukraine and Kyiv, we can talk about the Ukrainians' ability to hit deep inside of Russia. So again, there's no one way the Russians can try to say that they're doing better than they are in this war. There are, like I continue to say, definitely aspects that you have to keep our eyes on and keep, based in reality on. And Konstantinivka and the Fortress Belt area is one of them. But, the reality is that that's going to become an ever more increasingly devastating meat grinder for the Russian military, the more that they decide to push into this area. And then, God help them if they do, in fact, ever make it into Sloviansk or Kramatorsk, which is going to be, just like I continue to say, a fucking hellish nightmare, like the likes of which that they haven't seen in quite some time for the Russian military. So, we've run out of time today. I very much appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Unfortunately, some bad things, obviously, that we had to discuss and talk about today. But, I think the overarching sentiment, especially when it pertains to the Graham Plattner, debacle that we've seen there, is the policies. Drill home the policies. Drill home the popularity of the policies, right? The progressive movement and how popular that is right now with the people of these different states and the people of, the people that want to see more work done for the blue collar, for the middle and the lower class individuals that don't want to see genocides continue in Lebanon and Gaza, that don't want to see the billionaires continue to step on the necks of the people in this country so they can continue to buy their 13th or 14th yacht. Make it more affordable to buy a home, make it more affordable just to live in this country in general, easier access to health care, education, all of these things that were espoused. I think that is where we need to focus upon. And if it's that popular, it really shouldn't be that difficult to find somebody that's willing to fight for us for those values, for those beliefs, for those policies. And again, we need to do our best to make sure that we come up with the best candidate. Right, we absolutely need to. The Senate is a must. The biggest win in midterms is a must. Defeating Susan Collins is a fucking must. So we need to make sure that we can get out of this hole that we've dug ourselves into, and again, fight out of this with the policies that are so popular. That's what it needs to be. It wasn't the person; it was the policies that were popular. So. I'll continue to drill that home here where, the I told you so's just don't have any effect at this point in time. It's much too important of a moment, much too important of a midterm election to sit here and, rely upon the I told you so's. We are where we are. And now we need to put our heads together to figure out how we can get the fuck out of this hole. Okay. So that's one thing that we had to talk about. Obviously, the Mitch McConnell debacle as well, and what's going on there where, apparently somebody that has no brain function can still hold committees and different aspects of power inside the federal government. And then, as we just wrapped up on a little bit from the war in Ukraine, strikes inside of Ukraine themselves, Ukraine striking inside of Russia, movements on the front lines. So appreciate you guys for sticking with us today. I'm going to go through the Venmo today, see who was nice enough to send in a buck or two. Thank everybody, because that's what I want to do. I appreciate you guys. And like I said, at the end of this, every single show, we make sure to say thank you, congratulate, highlight, appreciate, whatever you want to call it. Everybody that sends in a buck or two on Venmo. Starting us off today is Bry Guy, Bry H. Much appreciated. He sent in $2.50 on Venmo, and I can't thank him enough for that. He says, "Good afternoon, Brian. Super chats being shitty again. Slava Ukraine." Well, my apologies with the super chats. I can never get those damn things right. Typically not on my end of it, though. So, Bry, thank you for sticking it out. Thank you for hopping over there to Venmo to send that in. Thank you so much to Allison M. catching you on Substack. Thank you, Allison. I'm never sure if anybody watches over there, to tell you the truth. I've never once seen if one person watches over there. So, Allison, it's good to see that we do have one person, in fact, watching us over on Substack. So appreciate you. Thank you, Yakov, for the $10. Very much appreciated, my friend. He says Ukraine and gives the lobsters. He gives the Ukraine flag hearts, all of it. So much appreciated for everything that you do, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Damon, Jenny, Faye, Mike, Jim from last night. Very much appreciate you guys and contributing to this mission, contributing to everything that we need to make this possible. So like I said, Jenny, Faye, Damon, Mike, Jim last night, much appreciated for your contributions. Thank you so much to Moms. Thank you so much to Brian. Thank you so much to Geneva. Thank you so much to Sarah. Thank you so much to Nance, Erica B, MR, Roger, Allison, again, Brian, Ricky. Unbelievable to see you guys support this channel like this. I really can't thank you enough. I wish there was more words that I could pull out of my vocabulary to show you how much I appreciate what you've done for this channel. But I hope I do an okay enough job. But all right, let's jump over to YouTube now that I got these back in action. Let's go. There you are, guys. See, no more scrolling through, no more of this nonsense and not being able to thank you guys for your super chats and super stickers and milestones. So appreciate you for sticking with me and dealing with my shit for the last couple of shows. But starting us off today, Colleen, very much appreciated. She says, I think Trump should do a photo op with Mitch and clear up the mystery. Again, I don't think anybody would actually be in that picture. Still wouldn't be a heartbeat or a brain function to in that picture. So, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Colleen, for your contributions. Thank you for the $20. Much appreciated. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you to Al Yorkie. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much for the £5. Has McConnell been returned from the taxidermist yet? I don't think so. And again, he was up for taxidermy well before this whole shit show, sideshow even started, right? So, I mean, it's just, I made a post about Mitch McConnell. Well, I think it was after this happened, but it hadn't really been announced yet, where, it was just saying that there's people inside of caskets right now that are 6 feet underground that have more life, brain function, and ability to govern than Mitch McConnell does right now. So I think I've kind of been proven right as far as that's concerned, even with the new reporting coming out. But Al Yorkie, good to see you. Thank you so much for the £5. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Shovel Dead as well. Semper Fi. Thank you so much for the $20 contribution. Salute to you, my friend, and everything that you've done for this channel. Always great to see you in here. And thank you so much for contributing. It means a lot. Subscribing and liking and sharing is one thing, but people that come out of pocket for this channel, it's really, really special to see. And I can't thank you guys enough for doing it. That goes for Colleen as well, gifting 10 Boston Brian memberships. Very much appreciated, Colleen. Shout out to you. W's in the chat for all you fine, fabulous, fantastic motherfuckers that help keep this channel running. I know one day we're going to see that explosive growth that other people that aren't so deserving have seen. I didn't say that. Did you say that? Did I say that? I didn't say that, but you guys said that. But thank you so much, Colleen. Very much appreciated. Rachel, great to see you last night. Thank you so much for the $5. Rachel says, New Englanders need to stick it out. It won't be easy, but we all have to get up to Maine and New Hampshire this fall to beat Collins and Sununu. They need us. Absolutely. Absolutely. This shouldn't discourage people, especially, those trying to get involved or, want to see obviously us take the Senate or do as well as we possibly can in midterms, from doing the work to get somebody else in there or to get the best candidate we possibly can to, again, get in there and defeat Susan Collins. It's very important. And I just continue to go back to the policies. It's the policies. I feel like the policies could win without fucking anybody running beside them. You know what I mean? They're that popular. People are that fed up. People are that sick and tired of the fucking way that this country has been run, where these things that are being espoused and people that want to see actual action for the fucking working class people in this country. I don't even think there needs to be a name attached. They're so fucking popular. So we need to stay involved. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to support the people of Maine, to make sure that, again, we're picking the best possible candidate in that position, in the position that we're in right now. Obviously has to be taken into account. And I'm right there with you, Rachel. And I know we have some fantastic people here from Maine listening. I know Jen from Maine is a part of this community as well. So there's people that are directly involved and related to this problem and mission that we need to be fighting for as well. So thank you so much, Rachel. Much appreciated. And who's next up today? Oh, here. Holy shit. That couldn't have happened any better. Speaking of which, here's Jen from Maine. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Just chatting about you. Thank you so much for the $10. Eric and I had dinner with Graham Plattner last month. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he could turn on the charm. I don't think there's been any mistaking the fact that he's tried to get these stories past us, and he's lied to us repeatedly about what's to come out, what people know, things to be worried about. Same thing with this campaign. So I'm not saying he hasn't schmoozed or doesn't have the ability to schmooze. Like, I'm not saying if you're saying that, like, he got one over on you. Like, I don't think that says anything about you, to tell you the truth. You know what I mean? I just, I'm not sure kind of what that's referencing. But yeah, it is unfortunate that so many people were supportive of and went to bat for this guy and were willing to put up with the red flags and things that people were talking about because of the policies. And obviously what people were looking at on the other side of the aisle is another huge aspect of this. It has to be said, when you're looking at a pedophile in the White House, when you're looking at his entire pedophile class being protected by the billionaire class, by the people in government right now, like you can see why people would be like, okay, I like what he says so much that, maybe it kind of, you have the ability to tune out some things, right? Or to put up with certain things. It has to be said. So again, I don't blame or fault anybody for wanting the best for Maine or wanting the best for your community, wanting to defeat Susan Collins, wanting to take back the Senate in midterms. Absolutely not. I'm not going to fault anybody. But it remains to be seen and needs to be said from what we know now, that the nail is in the coffin, right? So Jen, we definitely feel for you and other people of Maine and having to put up with this situation, but just know that we're here to fight for you. We're not obviously giving up or going anywhere. We're not throwing anybody to the side or disregarding anybody because of what they wanted to see happen. None of those things. We're right there with you. And again, we're just really sorry that you've been put into this position. And this is where we are, having to fight out of this hole. So Jen, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you do in this channel, for as far as being a mod, obviously the contributions as well. And again, I hope that comes across as I lose my words. But thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate you and everything that you guys have done. You and Eric have been absolutely fantastic to me and the channel in so many different ways. And I owe you guys a lot. I really, really do. So hopefully you guys get the best representation that you possibly can have. And we still have an opportunity to, again, take back the Senate and defeat Susan Collins in Maine as well. So thank you so much to Jen. Thank you to Alvin. Much appreciated. And still not releasing the Epstein files. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, there's so much different thing that need to be said as far as this conversation is concerned and why people may have been doing or saying or behind the candidate they were behind. There's a lot that goes into it. It really is. So Alvin, thank you so much. Very much appreciate you. And absolutely, you're 100% right. Still not seeing any accountability. Still not seeing anybody being perp walked here in the United States as far as the Epstein files is concerned. So what's the DOJ? What's the FBI? What's the CIA doing? Absolutely fuck all. Absolutely fuck all. So let's see here. Jen, again, much appreciated. Sent in $5. Says David Costello is our guy. Plattner is a loser. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't 100% sure where the last comment was going. I think rightly so. You were on the side of like look at what the fuck's happened now, and we just sat down with this asshole. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the approach that I was getting. It's just, it was hard to tell from text. But yeah, I'll have to get up to speed on more of the main candidates. Maybe I can rely upon you, Jen, to kind of keep me filled in and up to speed on kind of maybe possible replacements or where Mainers are saying they should go from here. Because again, at the end of the day, it's the people of Maine that should be deciding, what representation they have and what is best for their state as well. So, like I said, Jen, we're here to support you guys, and our deepest sympathies go out to the people of Maine for being in the position that they're in right now. So, thank you so much for your contribution, and I look forward to kind of getting more up to speed on some of the other candidates. Thank you, Ninang. What's going on, Ninang? Good to see you. Keep it up, Brian. Best chat, Crustacean Nation. Well, Ninang, great to see you in the chat. Very much appreciated. Always see you in so many of the other chats that we're affiliated with, associated with, and a lot of the other people here that are in the chat, always supporting other communities on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, on Instagram. And I can't thank you guys enough. I really can't. I know I'm thanking you on behalf of other channels right now, not typically what you'd see on YouTube, but I am thanking you on behalf of other channels right now for everything that that you guys do and the support that you show to independent creators and people that call themselves independent creators but are really not, but still bring you the insights and the information that keeps you guys up to speed and educated. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ninang, for everything that you've done for this channel. Thank you for putting up with my bullshit as I called you the wrong name for so long. I appreciate you coming back time and time again. And, very, very valued member of the community is Ninang. So shout out to you. Much appreciated. Thank you to Greg as well. W's to Greg in the chat. Best take on Platner I've heard. I'll take my lumps. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, I didn't say it. I had it in my head perfectly before I came on the show, and this is typically what happens. I don't know if you guys get this, anybody that has, a show or has called into a radio program or whatever it may be, or spoken in public before, like you have it down pat all the time, what you want to say. And then as soon as you get up there with the microphone in your face and the camera turns on and the lights are on, it's like, what did I want to say again? So hopefully I did an okay job. I know I've probably misconstrued a couple things, and I know I've probably, messed up on some of my points, as it pertains to some of these situations. But I hope the overarching sentiment is the same. I was one of these people out there and being called names for it and saying that I didn't want the Democrats to do well and I wasn't a progressive because I was saying that anybody that didn't know that they had a fucking Totenkopf tattoo was probably not to be trusted, either because they're stupid and ignorant or because they absolutely knew exactly what was going on and they're just lying to you. Again, Blackwater service, bigoted, racist, misogynistic statements, like the signs were there. But again, we're in a fucking weird time politically. Going back to it has to be said, we got a pedophile in the White House. You know what I mean? So that's the time that we're at right now. It's not normal. Everybody kind of struggling and trying to find, the right way to go and the right people to represent them. And, like I said, we're in wild times right now. So I hope it was taken the right way. I hope it came across the way that I wanted it to come across. But yeah, the nail is in the coffin as far as that is concerned. And we would have been much better served, I think, spending more time trying to find somebody that didn't have a Nazi tattoo. That's just my opinion. So appreciate you, Greg. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting this channel and being a valued member of that chat down there. Very much appreciate you. Thank you to Nola as well. Great reporting. Oh, thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the $10, Nola. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you, Rachel. The Irkutsk is by Lake Baikal. Was there in 2005 plus 11. Is that 2005 to 11? You were in fucking Irkutsk? Where the fuck haven't you been? Hold on. Where the fuck haven't you been, Rachel? This is crazy. I'm just going to pull up on the fucking map one more again for everybody, just to show where Rachel apparently lived. Was there? Oh, I don't know if you lived. I don't know what the plus 11 means. I don't know if that means for 11 years, but let me see here. I know it's probably going to go a little slow as I pull this up, but let me show you Irkutsk, which is right here. Throw this on the screen. What the fuck were you doing in Irkutsk? Unreal. That's crazy. Let me see. Let me go back to the chat. Maybe you're telling me what plus 11 means. What's plus 11? Where are you? You in here? Hopefully you're still in here. I'm not just talking to myself. Most places. She says most places. What's plus 11 mean? Were you there for 11 years? Oh, you were there in 2005 and 2011? Gotcha. My apologies. Gotcha. For what? Travel and shit? Because look at where this is, in case anybody's curious. We're just going to zoom out. We'll do a little zoomage. We're going to zoom out, and we're going to continue to zoom out. We're going to continue to zoom out. We're going to continue to zoom out. Look at where this fucking place is. In the middle of absolute nowhere. You might as well have been in Mongolia, for fuck's sake. I mean, we're talking about you can't even you can barely see Ukraine over here. That's crazy. Shut up, Chris. Easy down there. Easy. Settle down. Yeah. All right. So everybody else knew it. But I didn't. I didn't know. All right. It's tough. It's not the easiest. You know what I mean? I got a lot of things going on in my brain. But that's pretty cool, Rach. That's pretty cool that you were there. definitely not many people in the chat can say that they've been to Irkutsk, I can assure you. So pretty cool that we got one in our chat right now. But thank you so much for your contribution, Rachel. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. W's in the chat to you. And thank you, JD, rounding us out today. Been a member for 27 months. Unplug Mitch McConnell. Oh, hey, listen. I walked by many a couch, many a TV, and accidentally kicked the plug out of the socket. I have. It happens. I assure you, it can happen. Doesn't have to be necessarily something that you were meaning to do. Wasn't really, the goal of the movement that you were going for, but it definitely can happen where, that cord just accidentally gets wrapped around your leg. Next thing you know, that one jerk, that one movement, it's just power out. You know what I mean? Lights off. But, we got to be somewhat PC here so we can keep this channel up. As much as the sentiment that I'd love to espouse right now. You know what I mean? It is. I'm telling you, you might as well. The only people that I've actually think that I've seen go to Mongolia was the Top Gear crew. And that might have actually been for the Grand Tour now that I'm thinking about it. But, Jeremy and James and Richard. I couldn't think of the last name, but I think they're the only people I've ever seen go to Mongolia. But no, that's pretty cool. It really is pretty cool. So much appreciated, and I look forward to updating you guys on the trip to Estonia and obviously the subsequent drive from Estonia into Ukraine. Like I said, I should probably call Mom on that one, let her know exactly what's going on. That would probably be good of me. But yeah, I'll let you guys go. Much appreciated. Tomorrow night, we're going to do a little Q&A. I didn't forget. You guys were very fantastic and gracious enough to get us past our YouTube super chat goals the last couple shows. So, Sunday we did a 3-hour show. We went over by an hour to give you guys a little bit more like you guys deserve. And then tomorrow night, we'll see if we can put together some way to do like a Q&A. If you guys have any questions you want to ask, I don't think we've done that on this channel since we started doing these live streams and stuff. So probably a good opportunity to utilize that. Tomorrow night we have tomorrow we got 2 shows. So we got one tomorrow during the day at 1 p.m. here on the East Coast. That's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. That's only for an hour. And then tomorrow night we also are on at 8:30 p.m. for our 2-hour show. So maybe either the first or the second hour we'll do a Q&A. We'll see if we can figure out. Oh, thank you, Shockey. Good to see you. Hiya, Brian. Farage has shot himself in the foot. Nigel Farage. What, you mean with the $5 million? What's going on with him? I did see a couple LBC posts that we're talking about Nigel Farage. Let me see here real quick before I let you guys go. Because I'm curious if you mean, literally. Let me see. No, it was, these videos, it was the real motivation behind Nigel Farage's resignation. While Farage can still be investigated by the electoral, and it's cut off there. Nigel Farage resigns as MP and triggers by-election. So yeah, we did see that. I did see that, but I didn't see if there was any investigations opened or anything like that. So yeah, Nigel Farage getting the toss, the tosser getting the toss, as it were. But thank you, Shockey, for keeping us up to speed. Much appreciated for the £2. And you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you twice tomorrow. Again, get your questions ready for the Q&A tomorrow. We'll see if we can figure out with the mods how the best way to go about that is. I don't want to have to make you guys pay for the questions, you know what I mean, like through super chat. So we'll see if we can figure out a different way for you guys to get the questions in, and we'll see how many we can answer tomorrow, right? So, all right, salute to you guys. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. My name is Boston Brian. This has been the Blunt Politics Podcast. I really do appreciate you guys for joining us and helping us get to our 25,000 subscriber goal, which we're nearly at. Before midterms, that would be fantastic. And as we are getting ready to set off for our latest journey to Estonia to help deliver vehicles to the armed forces of Ukraine, driving some nearly 30 hours from Estonia to try to get to Kyiv. So it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do that on your behalf. Thank you guys for supporting the NAFO 69 Sniffering Brigade campaign. Can't thank you guys enough. We are currently at, let me do one more refresh before I let you guys go. We are at a brisk 98%, 2% to go right now. We are 20,131 and 77 pence. So thank you guys so much for getting us to that position. 2% to go. And like I said, just a few days away before we take our trip. And we'll be bringing you guys the insights and as much along the way, as much as humanly possible for that. So big shout out, big salute. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you to all the mods. Thank you to everybody in the chat. This huge community that we've built here is really uplifting and continues to give me the motivation to do this day after day after day, to sift through what is not really nice stuff. You know what I mean? Just really not nice stuff that we got to sift through here. So, all right. Appreciate you guys. I'll let you go before I take up too much of your day. Thank you, Dusty. Thank you to Shockey. Thank you to Tiff. Thank you to James. Thank you to Alvin. Much appreciated to all the mods, Rocks. Thank you to Yakov. Thank you to Alyosha. Happy birthday again, Alyosha, my man. Hope you have a wonderful day. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much cake. Thank you to Ninang. Thank you to Rachel. Thank you, WW. Much appreciated, dude. Good to see you, Nick Rich. What's up, future boy? What's up, everybody? Thank you, guys. Oh, I love seeing you guys in here. I really do. All right. Much appreciated. Thank you to James. What's up, JJ? What's happening, brother? What's up, Goa? Look at everybody. I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Well, appreciate you guys. All right. I'll let you guys go. Make sure you're hitting that like button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Big salute. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. Get the fuck out of your seat and into the street, because we're just not pissed off enough in this country based on, everything that's happening to us here. So, all right. I'll catch you tomorrow. Appreciate you.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
God bless the United States.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? To officially name the undisputed, when did this come out?
I'm just an average guy who read public documents where the elite said they were going to enslave us and destroy America, and I'm not going to be like yuppie scum and deny the threat to my country. I'm going to fight back.
Where you going? Nowhere. I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
I say mud, I said crud. You fall into some crud or something?
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
You referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Here you got a little chubby going there.
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your.
Obama. Obama. Obama.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
The population in Thailand is 63 million people.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
I mean, they've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
Yesterday was a hard word for me.
Fucking Nazis.
The big, fat, sloppy United States.